Well, good morning. Good morning and welcome everybody. Welcome to the 4th Eastern Sierra Capital Summit. It's great to be back after a 2-year hiatus. Last time we were in Bishop for this was back in 2018. So it's great to alternate between Bishop and Mammoth Lakes on an annual basis. And we have some really great presenters for you today. And we're going to really show you where the capital is to start businesses, whether it be debt, whether it be equity that you need, whether it be investment capital, all sources, well, as many sources as we're going to be able to provide in 4 hours. So we will get that information out to you. We're doing a kind of a hybrid event today. So we are live here in Bishop and we are also online. So welcome to both audiences. And we're really looking forward to a wonderful conference. And let's kick it off with a welcome from Mr. Nate Greenberg, who is the Chief Administrative Officer for the County of Inyo. Nate.
Well, good morning. Thanks for that intro, Kelly. And for those of you who haven't seen that video before, there's a bunch more that are like it on the brand new InyoCountyVisitor.com site, which is a collaboration between Inyo County, the Bishop Chamber of Commerce, and certainly has a bunch of promotional information and a lot of beautiful imagery and other resources. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, go take a look. So good morning and welcome. Thanks for the intro, Kelly. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nate Greenberg, and I am the new Inyo County Administrator as of about a month. I've been in the Eastern Sierra a long time, was with Mono County for a little over 20 years, and just started to commute down the hill, and it's a really nice change of pace. So welcome to beautiful Bishop, and for those of you online, I'm sorry you're not here in person. Before I get started, I just wanted to read a little land acknowledgement and to recognize that these lands have been for over 10,000 years and still very much are inhabited by the Paiute, the Numu, the Shoshone, the Niue, and the Timbisha peoples. Many of these lands are now known by names recognizing people who never even set foot here. These lands are called the Paihunadu or the Panawi by the Numu and the Niue peoples respectively. This land acknowledgement is recognition of the original inhabitants of the Eastern Sierra and is intended as a show of respect for Native peoples and to surface the often suppressed colonial history of our country. And as a member of Inyo County and a public servant, I really deeply value and respect and appreciate the relationships we have with all the tribes, and they're a very important part of the overall governing solution to the valley as a whole. So, you know, if the video provided a little bit of inspiration, great. If not, you know, maybe some of my words will, which I'd like to start by saying that I'm extremely excited to be part of this organization, to be part of this region. I really believe that this is a very unique time for us as a set of communities and as a region as a whole. There's a lot of really amazing things happening around here. And I think if you haven't looked around or noticed, I think the new life and vitality that's being brought into the corridor communities of 395 and other portions throughout Inyo and Mono counties is unique. And I think it's bringing new life to this once very sleepy portion of the state. We're seeing interest brought in here to our communities from locals, people who have been here a long time, and people from throughout the state and throughout the country, and even throughout other parts of the world. And I think the ability to take advantage of things like opportunity zones and tax credits and capital are infusing new vibrance into entrepreneurs and folks that are really interested in settling here in the Eastern Sierra. I really believe that business, especially small business, is the lifeblood of our community, and it's vitally important for us. When you look around at the makeup of the businesses that are on main streets, they're generally locally owned. They're generally not large chains. And I think that that's an important component to our communities. And it's something that we really want to support. I think we as government entities recognize that the last couple of years have been really hard on you as business owners. And I applaud you. I appreciate you. I think the ingenuity, the creativity, the stick-to-itiveness that people have shown to get through the pandemic have not only supported us as constituents and community members, but hopefully will bring additional value to you as business owners as we sort of emerge off the other side. And it's exciting to see some of our main streets turn over. We're seeing new things come into Bishop. It's really great to see the expansion of Great Basin Bakery, the kind of the arrival of Grocery Outlet, Mexican Mercado. We're seeing old spaces like the Ben Franklin turn over with River Queen Provisions, and other things pop up in other communities throughout the 395 corridor. And that, I think, is a testament to what we have to offer as a region and the unique set of opportunities that are here. Several years ago, I was in Telluride for Mountain Ventures Summit. I'm not sure if any of you have heard about it, but it was a gathering of small mountain communities throughout the West to talk about unique opportunities and challenges that we face. And while I was there, I was talking to my friend, Mark Nagar, who at the time ran the Telluride Venture Accelerator. And I asked Mark what was the role he saw government playing in helping support entrepreneurialism and business as a whole. And what he said really resonated, and it stuck with me, which is he wants to see government leaned in with our hands off, meaning that, the expectation, I think, from business owners is that we're here to support, we're here to provide infrastructure, we're here to provide governance. Obviously, there's a certain amount of regulation, but as a whole, we should be in support. We shouldn't be in the way. And really, I think we're trying hard to do that. It's not always easy, but ultimately, that's the role I see Inyo County playing, and I hope that the other agencies throughout the region are doing that too. In support of that, one of the things that we're really excited about and proud to be bringing to the community and to you as a business community is the new Small Business Resource Center, which will be opening in the former High Sierra Crafters Mall on Main Street in Bishop sometime next year. And that space is really designed to provide a touchdown spot as well as a set of resources for all of you. By the way, we're looking for an executive director. So if anybody is interested or knows anybody interested, there's a position description sitting out there on the Sierra Business Council site, and we'd be happy to point you to it. So we'll talk a little bit more about that probably throughout the day and in the future. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me or my colleague, Megan McCammon. But ultimately, the intent of that resource center is to partner with other entities like the Job Spot and Sierra Coastal College and the Small Business Development Center to provide workforce development, to provide business development resources, and really help you as entrepreneurs and business owners get to that next level. And we're hoping that it becomes a nexus for innovation and ingenuity and a place where people can come forward and be collaborative. One of the other things I think is a necessity of a government entity, and I'm really excited about, is the infrastructure components, right? I mean, that's a necessity for us to all be successful. And as a county, as a region, we're seeing landmark investments come forward. More money is being infused into this region than ever in our lifetimes. Literally millions of dollars are coming in and really are aimed at propping up infrastructure in efforts like broadband development. We're doing a lot of work in climate change, resiliency, drought and flood, fire, as well as focusing on economic development and looking at sustainable recreation as sort of the the center point and the focal for how we can leverage this unique environment that we have to really support new economic development growth. And one of the things that we're really excited about, which some of you may have already taken advantage of, is the airport and the return of reliable air service to the Eastern Sierra through the development at the Bishop Airport. I think is something that's going to serve this region really well and be a springboard for new opportunities in the future. We're looking at making additional investments out there, hopefully building a new terminal in the next several years, expanding various other services and resources, as well as expanding flights. And all of that is made possible through a lot of money that's coming down through federal and state programs. Really, all of this is possible, and I think one of the key tenets of our work and my interest is the strategic partnerships that exist. And that extends to the 5 tribal nations in Inyo County, as well as the others throughout the corridor, the City of Bishop, Town of Mammoth Lakes in Mono County, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, the Sierra Business Council, the Bishop Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Development Center at CSU Bakersfield, and collaborative working relationships like the Eastern Sierra Council of Governments and the Eastern Sierra Sustainable Recreation Partnership. And obviously businesses like you. And so we can't do this alone. We want to be here to support you. And today I think is really about exposing you to those opportunities and resources, whether that's coming from us, whether that's coming from capital in the room. But we're here to support you, and your vision and success is really a key part of us being successful as a whole in the region. So thanks, Kelly, thanks for the opportunity, and let's get down to business.
Thank you, Nate. We're really excited that you've come on board as the CAO of the county. Maybe me, particularly because going back 10 years ago, I met Nate Greenberg. I was the East Kern representative to the Eastern Sierra Connect Regional Broadband Conspiracy, some said. Consortium, most of us said. So, and that was that fine work. And Nate actually did a couple of webinars for us back around 2015 or so, really talking about the promise and the opportunity. The Digital 395, that $100 million fiber infrastructure project from San Bernardino to Reno, was going to do for this region. And that is going to be still a huge piece of infrastructure out there as we move forward, working with our small businesses. I can honestly tell you, we've done a lot of webinars, and I feel completely confident today about the actual internet that we have that I can't say I do most days. So we are totally connected here. The 395 comes all the way out to the college, obviously, and it's really a great piece of infrastructure. And thanks again, Nate. So while we're thanking, I would like to thank a lot of the representatives that are with a number of organizations in both Inyo and Mono counties. The City of Bishop and the County of Inyo have been instrumental in a lot of what we're doing with as far as, like Nate mentioned, the Business Resource Center and other resources that are going to be provided to the Eastern Sierra. This has been a large, neglected for a lot of business purposes. We found when we started coming over here, there really wasn't anybody doing anything to help and assist small businesses. And that has changed. We have, at the time, we had very few lenders that would do anything, if any, with getting access to capital for businesses over here. I'm happy to report now, as you'll find out today, that there are a lot of programs. And there's a lot of programs that support rural businesses all throughout Central California. That's what really today is about. It's about a lot of the rural programs that are going to support businesses throughout. And so in addition to the City of Bishop and the County of Inyo, the Bishop Chamber of Commerce has been very helpful and instrumental. The Mammoth Lakes Chamber of Commerce. So thank you to those fine organizations and for really being really supportive and getting us to this point. Okay, our next speaker. Our next speaker, as I try to look at my notes that I don't have, is going to be Linda Quiñones-Vaughan, and she is the Central California Advisor to the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. And she is going to talk about some really exciting state programs and give us our second welcome. So Linda, come on up. Great having you.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, everyone. Let's see, I need to advance this off of this page. And I think
Fortunately, I brought two AT. So are you still stuck in?
there's a black screen. It looks like it just needs to be X'd out. You have it, you can X it out. There you go.
Everybody's getting a nice preview of where we're going today. And okay, so there's the speed force today and where we're going. And we'll get Linda up here going again. And go. We're still having an issue actually advancing up here. So in the meantime, until we fix that little technical issue, what we're going to do is have you just kind of nod over here to Iris and she'll advance the slide for you so we
Okay,
can get
so
that
let's
resolved.
go back.
It's tricky.
Back one more and one more. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm glad that we got the technical piece all worked out. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for being here. As Kelly said, I am Linda Quiñones-Vaughan, and I am the Central California advisor to the Office of the Small Business Advocate. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you for being here. On behalf of Madam Tara Lynn Gray, she wanted to be here, and Sacramento called. It was actually a mandatory meeting for myself today, and I want to thank her for her permission to be here with everyone in this room and everyone online. You want to go ahead and advance? Thank you. The California Office of the Small Business Advocate serves as the voice of small businesses. We are here to represent small business, to advocate on your behalf, and to make sure that you have equitable access to capital. Next slide, please. Small business access to capital. That's what this seminar is all about. Most businesses need it and must look into ways for starting their business, operating their business, and growing their business. You'll see there that there are four areas of capital that I've included in my presentation. I'm going to focus primarily on government grants from our office, small personal loans and small business loans, as well as angel investors and venture capital. I have a number of my colleagues in this room that will be addressing that directly. Next slide, please. The first thing I want to start off with is our technical assistant and capital infusion program. We have over 100 technical assistance centers in California, and they're there for you. And my message to the small business entrepreneur and small business throughout Central California is that we're here to help you. These technical assistance centers are here to help you. And you will be hearing from one of our technical assistant representatives today. So I'm not going to get into the detail there, but just know that they're there to provide one-on-one counseling, as well as to give you low-cost training services. One of our most popular programs is the California Dream Fund. This is a one-time $35 million Entrepreneurship Small Business Program. Now, this program is for new businesses. You have a dream. We're here to help you make that dream a reality. Now, in order to participate in this program, you do need to go through a training program with our technical assistance centers. And after successfully completing this wraparound service, then you will be eligible for a micro grant. Accelerate California. It's all about our innovation hubs. We have 10 of them in the state of California, and they're there to assist with innovation, science, and technology-based firms. Next slide, please. Our COVID-19 relief grant programs. We have one that is targeted for small business and nonprofits. We had so many applications, and because of the allocation, the program's currently closed. This particular program provided $5,000 to $25,000 grants. But we also have micro business COVID-19 relief grant program. 46 counties in the state of California are providing small grants of $2,500, they're micro grants to micro businesses that were affected by COVID-19. We have our California Nonprofit Arts and Culture Program, and it does support eligible California nonprofit cultural organizations with this particular grant. And it's currently closed. However, I want to point out the application process will open again soon. Next slide, please. COVID-19 relief grant programs support eligible independent live event venues. As of September 22, 550 eligible California venues were awarded $80.8 million. There is also our California Nonprofit Performing Arts Grant Program. This program focuses specifically on workforce development. They're grants to eligible organizations, theater, dance, musical groups, artists, and other performing art companies. And this program is currently open. And again, it will assist with workforce development. Thank you. I'm going to talk just briefly about the expansion this year of some of our existing programs and some of the new programs that we will have coming. The iHubs have an infusion of $20 million to expand our 10 facilities here in the state of California to 13. There's a new initiative known as the California Regional Initiative for Social Enterprise. It's $25 million for economic mobility and inclusion for individuals who have experienced barriers to employment. And we have a number of individuals throughout the state of California that have had this and still do. Our Women's Business Center Enhancement Program, $8 million infusion for technical assistance. That's $8 million more this year. And our focus is women-owned business and women entrepreneurs over the next 3 years. Next slide. Small agriculture business drought relief. We all know the impacts of the drought here in California. And our agriculture businesses have felt it hard. $75 million is being dedicated for those agriculture businesses that have been severely impacted. Our small business and nonprofit COVID-19 supplemental paid sick leave relief grant will have $150 million for qualified businesses and nonprofits. Nonprofits. We have a couple of programs at the very least for nonprofits. So if there is nonprofits, individuals online or in this room, please take note of this program. Next slide. Disaster preparedness and resiliency. Well, we certainly have learned that in the last 3 years. But there's sudden disasters as well. California has suffered a number of fires, and we know the fire season. This is an awareness and training program to get ready. And you'll see here how we help. It's all about having the business ready. Do you have enough insurance? Are you ready? Do you have a backup plan for business data records in case of a power outage? And how much capital can you access quickly if needed? This program we are very excited about. Let me underscore that this is a proposal for us. We are in the proposal process, our office. And I have one of my colleagues here, Alison, from the California Pollution Control Financing Authority. So I won't speak to her programs. I'll leave that to her. iBank is also one of our partners. So we have two partners, iBank and California Pollution Control Financing Authority. Our role in our proposal is to provide technical assistance. The priorities for this technical assistance to you as businesses, small businesses, entrepreneurs, is going to be banking, legal services, and accounting. Next slide, please. I've been asked to add just a few of the slides from my iBank partner. iBank is the state's only general purpose financing authority, and they're here to support infrastructure and economic development. Next slide, please. The one thing I want to point out here, is the California's approximate allocation for the state small business credit initiative, and it's often referred to as SSBCI, is the $1.2 billion that will be shared between the two state agencies, our partners, iBank and CPCFA. Next slide. This particular slide for iBank just goes over some of the loan programs. You'll see them there bulleted. They have a finance center. If you're interested in these loan guarantee programs or loan programs, you can access iBank's website. Next slide, please. I will leave you with this final thought. Whenever you see a successful business, someone once made a courageous decision. Next slide. For all our programs, please visit our website, calosba.ca.gov. Again, calosba.ca.gov. I want to thank you for including me, Kelly, and including the California office of the Small Business Advocate. Thank you, everyone.
It's my pleasure to introduce JP Lake, and JP is the co-founder of the Kern Venture Group, which is a very diverse access to capital venture fund located throughout Central California and headquartered in Bakersfield, California. JP also heads up the prosperity movement in Kern County under the B3K, thank you, which does stand for, I do know that, Better Bakersfield, Boundless Kern. I love technology issues. JP, take it away, please. Please.
Great. Well, thank you, Kelly. I think if we could back up, I think maybe there should be a title slide. But again, my name is JP Lake. The JP is short for John Paul. And back one more, I think. I think you're going the wrong direction. Oh, all right. Well, we're starting there. Okay, we're going to improvise, which is what entrepreneurship is all about. Because every day when you walk into your business, your day usually doesn't end up being what you thought it was going to be, does it? Right? And being a good entrepreneur is all about learning how to pivot, solve problems, and figuring out how you make that next payroll. And like literally just last night, I'm working with an entrepreneur that's in our portfolio company about how does he raise capital. His business is growing, and yet you've got to make sure you're making payroll and balancing revenue and expenses. And so I know the life of an entrepreneur. I like to say that I'm the product of 3 generations of entrepreneurs. My family has a large established business, and so I'm the 4th in that generation. And then I had a mom who prayed a lot for me. And I think those are 2 of the things that made me who I am today. So Kern Venture Group, as Kelly said, is we believe we're the only formally organized venture capital fund in Central California, at least between Bakersfield and then all the way up until you get to Sacramento, where there are some organized funds. If you could go to the next slide. We have $6 million in our current fund. It's our 2nd fund. All of our investment dollars come from local investors in Bakersfield and Kern County, and over time we hope to grow that. We started in 2018 with just a $2 million fund, and I'm going to be telling you about how we operate that fund. And our goal really is to make a lasting impact in the communities that we invest in. Ultimately, we would like to see a more thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem in Central California and places like Bishop and Mammoth Lakes. And we know and we saw that there wasn't really an organized form of venture capital in the region. And we all know that Silicon Valley has billions and billions of dollars of that. The LA region and San Diego regions have very healthy venture capital and entrepreneurial ecosystems. And we thought this was a gap that we could fill. And hopefully we'll be able to find businesses that will grow and scale to become, billion-dollar companies in their own right and really transform the Central California region. Next slide, please. So why are we doing what we do? I think it's important to always start with the why. And really for us, it's a very personal belief that talent exists everywhere, right? Every one of us is given unique gifts and skills. And a lot of times it's just a matter of having an opportunity and some support. And I love that Drucker quote, Linda, about, someone sometime made a really courageous decision to start the business. And then they found that first investor or that source of capital or that mentor who also made a courageous decision to believe in them that they could do something amazing. And we think that's a really special thing that deserves to be supported. And we believe that people have that talent everywhere and that it's equally spread around the world. And so we want to help more people realize those dreams. We go to the next slide, please. We know that talent does exist here, and as I just said, and here's some proof. Just in like the Kern County region, the Central California region, these are some amazing companies that were all started right in Central California. And they're not just the traditional industries like you would think of as farming or oil and gas, right? Companies like Sonos, right? Who has a Sonos speaker in your home, right? That's a Central California company over on the coast. Procore is a software company that has an amazing product that is used in the construction industry. The Mojave Air and Spaceport, all kinds of amazing things being done down there in the aerospace industry. So this just goes to prove that the talent is here, and we just need to support more entrepreneurs to create more companies like this going forward. If we go to the next slide, I want to share with you just a little bit of statistics, and these are Bakersfield focused because that's where we're from. And one of my other jobs is the executive director of B3K, which is our economic development strategy for Kern County. We did some extensive work in 2020 and 21 to really analyze our region. And one of the things we looked at is how is our entrepreneurial ecosystem doing? And what we found is that Bakersfield actually does a really good job of new business creation. We have a lot of startups being formed, and that first statistic shows that 6.5, almost 6.6% of jobs in Bakersfield are being created by young firms. So these are firms, I think, 3 years old or less, or maybe 5 years old or less. And that actually stacks up very well against some of who we would consider our peers to be: Albuquerque, New Mexico, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Boise, Idaho, just to name a few. The challenge and the problem that we have, and I think it's similar throughout the Central California region and maybe even out here in the Eastern Sierra, is that our young firms are not surviving long enough. They don't have what we call enough durability. They're failing at too high of a rate. And so the way we can track that with data is that we look at how long do these jobs at these smaller young firms, how many of them last longer than 9 months, which, I mean, if you only have a job for 9 months, I'm not even sure I would consider that success, but there's a reason we picked kind of that 9-month threshold. And so in Bakersfield, you can see that only 37% of our jobs in these small startup firms or young firms last longer than 9 months, whereas in healthier ecosystems, you see Albuquerque, Tulsa, Boise, they hover around 60%. So they're almost twice as high as us. And our goal would be to see that number tick up over time. Next slide, please. So what do we know? We know that, you know, the spirit of entrepreneurship exists everywhere, especially in rural areas. We know that these new companies need more support. We know that this is a very diverse population in this region, right? The majority of the Central Valley, I don't know the statistics out here, but at least in the Central Valley, the majority of the region is non-white. We have, you know, over 50% Hispanic or Latin families, as well as Asian and African American, our Indian and tribal communities as well. And we know that there's a lot of educational attainment challenges, right? Only 19% of the population in our region has a bachelor's degree, which is underneath the national average at 31%. So capital is just one thing we can do to help with some of these things. And access to capital has been a challenge for many of these reasons. If we go to the next slide, we have an extensive network of partners, and this doesn't even represent them all. But I think the main takeaway here is that we love to partner with anyone kind of in our geographic region here in Central California. We've only been around now for 4 or 5 years, but we work with numerous Cal State and UC universities, as well as the Angel Capital Association, Tech Coast Angels, and many, many others. And these are places where we find entrepreneurs. I did see was that a hand for a question?
When are we going to talk about what those things are covered through your study? Because I think those are some of the key for things like this, we need to be looking at.
Yeah, so I'll repeat the question for those online. There was a question about have we studied the reasons for companies failing too soon? And yes, that's probably a longer discussion. I can come back around to it, though. I'm happy to talk offline, but I think that's definitely something the technical assistance providers in the room. I think there's opportunities to share and collaborate on that. I'm doing some of that work through through B3K, where we're bringing together CDFIs, and we're looking at the people that they deny for a micro grant or nano grant. We're trying to figure out, okay, why are they being denied, and what can the technical assistance providers do to help improve those success rates? So great question, and happy to talk more about that. If we go to the next slide, I think this is now getting into what I think probably is the most important and most relevant piece for those of you that are small business owners or entrepreneurs in the room, and you're thinking, gosh, there's all these programs. You know, Linda just shared probably 20 different programs. I wasn't counting. Fantastic programs. So there's all of those. And then now you've got venture capital, you've got angel investors. I would say Kern Venture Group, you could kind of consider us a blend of angel investor and venture capital. It's easier just to think of it that way. But how do you know which one is right for you? And so here's where I'm going to explain that for you. Our sweet spot is highlighted in yellow here on the screen, and it would be what we would call the startup or the validation stage. And that's where what we provide is normally called seed capital. And so what does that mean? If you start over on the left-hand side of the screen, right, everybody starts with an idea. You got an idea for a business, and I would encourage everyone, when you have an idea, don't be afraid to share it. A lot of people I run into, they're like afraid to share their idea because they think someone's going to steal it. And I can assure you that if your idea, if it's meant to be, you're the only one who's going to make it happen. You're uniquely qualified to do that. So don't be afraid to share it, you know, and so share that idea, and hopefully you find someone who, friends, family, someone who might be able to give you a little bit of startup help there, maybe invest a little bit of money so that you can build what's called kind of your minimum viable product, or an MVP. That's a prototype, you know, and get that in the hands of early potential customers who are going to try it out. And maybe they're probably not going to pay you for it. You're just looking for someone to validate, hey, does this solve a problem? Does it solve a pain point? Does it make your life easier, your business run smoother? Whatever it might be, does it save you cost, etc. Get that MVP out into the hands of people. Once you've got that, I would encourage you, now you need to explore these other sources of funding. Okay, so you should be going to iBank or CALOSBA and taking advantage of any grant or loan guarantee program that you can. Those programs, the dollar amounts are usually the right size for an early stage startup like that. And oftentimes they're what we refer to as non-dilutive, meaning you're not having to sell part of the ownership of your company to get that funding, right? So it's really, really important that you take advantage of those programs first, as well as try to find some friends and family. And you have to be careful about doing that, right? Because that can go both ways. But if you've got a family member or a friend who believes in you, that's a really good place to start. And because by the time you now get to a venture capital firm, you've raised a little money, you've got this product, now you've now validated it, you've got it in the hands of some potential customers, and hopefully you've now maybe got some paying customers. That's the time where you might look at a venture capital firm. Because we want to see that there's proof that someone will pay for your product or your service. It's not that we won't invest at the idea stage. There are some VC firms that will do that, but for the most part, they already want to see that you've got some traction. And so that's where we would come in. And we're really looking for companies that have tremendous potential to scale. So that's also something we're going to talk about. It's not necessarily for every type of business. Often to the right, you get into early growth, and those are the bigger venture capital firms that are investing much bigger sums than we do. Go to the next slide, please. We look at a lot of deals. It's another thing that entrepreneurs need to realize. It's sort of sometimes honestly might be a little bit discouraging, but I don't want you to feel discouraged, but I think it's good to be transparent. This is just a snapshot of how many deals cross our desk. And this was I think this was like an 18-month period ending through last June, and it's picked up. So we looked at almost 600 deals in an 18-month period. We're just one small little venture capital firm in little old Bakersfield, California, right? So on average, we're probably looking at close to 100 deals a month. From that, we invite 2 or 3 companies each month to present to our investors. And our investors don't make the final decision, but we allow them to make kind of an advisory vote. These are all local investors for managing their money, and we like to kind of build some community, and we invite guests to come and see our presentations. And in fact, we do now also do our pitch meetings in hybrid. And if anybody would be interested in just being an observer, I'm happy to let you be an observer as a guest, so you can see other companies present real action, right? Real money on the table. And it is a little bit like Shark Tank without the drama, and I don't have as much money as Mark Cuban, but it is a little bit like that. You know, you present for 10 to 15 minutes, we do some Q&A, and then after the meeting, we ask our investors, what'd you think? If it's generally positive, then myself and my partners do the final due diligence, and then we ultimately make a decision with our general partners. So you can see from 600 deals, we made 18 investments during that, 24-month period or so. So it is quite a bit of a process to get through it. What are we looking for? That's what's called the screening criteria on the right side of there. We really, really want to invest in local companies in this region. Quite frankly, we don't see enough of them yet. But again, if we do a better job of providing technical assistance and get more accelerators and incubators, I know that we will have more companies that can scale like this. Again, we're looking for seed stage or sometimes a little bit later, which is called a Series A. And we're looking for things that are very disruptive. We are looking for really high growth companies. So I just want to be upfront with that. You know, we're not the type of fund that's going to invest in a restaurant or a car wash business. We're looking for something, and I would say a good benchmark would be if you think your company could get to 10 million in revenue in 5 years or so, then that's probably something we would take a look at. If it doesn't have that type of growth potential, there are other sources of capital that you're learning about today. But I will promise you this, we will talk to any entrepreneur in our region who has an idea and they're looking for feedback. That is our promise to the community. So we will look at any business pitch deck that you have, give you some feedback and some thoughts. If we can connect you to a customer or a partner or other sources of capital, we will do that. So that is our promise to local entrepreneurs. Something that's all right. Yeah, go. Thank you. I don't know what happened to my chart there. I think the main takeaway here is, so we spread our investments pretty much across any type of industry. We are trying to really have a focus more on ag tech, aerospace, manufacturing, and energy, because those are highly relevant in our region. Out here, I think, as it was said earlier, it might be, more destination and, outdoor sports and activities type of startups would definitely be interesting and relevant out here. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is probably hard for people out here in the room to read. So again, these are some of the screening criteria. Generally, we're looking for Central California companies. We don't do that exclusively. And what we do, if it's not a company in this region, we look for companies that have a product or service that will benefit this region. So we do invest outside the region right now. Over time, we hope that we'll be able to invest 100% in the region. We do like to see that you've raised a little bit of money on your own. Why is that important? It tells us a lot about you as an entrepreneur and as a founder, because we need to know that you have the ability to raise money, because we don't want to be the only investor. It's like, if we're the only one in, there's maybe something else going on. So it also tells us, are you able to inspire someone else to believe in you? And not just investors, we want to know that you can recruit a team. And so one of our rules is it's almost, I would say, almost a 0% chance that we would invest in just one person. Like, we want to know that you've at least convinced one other person to go on that journey with you as a partner, as an employee, and hopefully, yes, also you need to have an investor, because that tells us that you can sell your vision, and that's really, really important. We do like to see that you build a team. We do like to see that the market size is big enough. I mentioned that if you can get to at least 10 million in revenue in 5 years or less, that's generally a good rule of thumb. We look at the market that you're attacking, right? Is there opportunities, or what we would call white space, right? That you're doing something that no one else is doing and you're meeting a pain point that customers have. Do you have a good brand and marketing strategy? And then, of course, if you've got something that can have a patent around it, or it's got unique technology, that always helps. Patents aren't everything. I will just tell you that sometimes it's actually smart to not file a patent, because you would then just have a trade secret, which means you don't have to share it with anybody and people don't know how you're doing what you're doing. But as soon as you file a patent, everybody can see it, and then they're just going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to get around it. So we're happy to give advice on intellectual property as well. Next slide. Slides got messed up here a little bit. We've got a lot of logos on the pages. This is just the companies that we have in our first fund. So this was the $2 million fund. We spread that over about 23 companies, I think it is. 52% of them do have the target of being within our geographic target, or they have a founder who was from Kern County, which was our primary focus. So, and that was 65% of our dollars. So I would tell you that only 2 of the companies are actually based in Bakersfield, but those are the 2 companies that we made the biggest investments in. So that's how we're balancing the dollars versus the deal flow that we see. And 57% of these companies do have a product or service that is beneficial and relevant to their region. So we're always measuring that against our goals there. The two that are local, I think just to promote them a little bit, Vinergy, which is on the bottom right there, they're a company in Bakersfield that is building autonomous robots that help with grape harvesting, stone fruit harvesting, and also pushing feed around at feedlots and dairies, which I never thought robots would be doing, but they are doing it, and cows are happier, supposedly. So with that, we'll go to the next slide, and this is where we're at on fund number 2. This first company is an interesting one. Founder is from Fresno, as a matter of fact, and he's at UC Riverside, and he was born hard of hearing, almost deaf. And growing up as a child, he learned, as many deaf people do, that they could really feel music. And he's done groundbreaking research and has his PhD sort of proving that human beings can sense a wider range of frequencies than what scientists have previously believed. So he's now developed a new audio speaker technology that is amazing. When you try it, you can embed it in seats and furniture and other things, and you feel music in a way that it's more than just bass that just kind of pounds you with vibration. So Edge Sound Research is hopefully a technology that you'll be being able to experience soon. So that's one where the founder is from the region. Evitado is working on aerospace, so that's why it checked the box for us. They're Americans. They happened to meet when they were in their engineering program in Germany. And Fabelish is they use chickpeas to make food, and chickpeas can be grown in the Central Valley. So again, we thought, okay, that's a relevant thing. I could go on and on, but last one, Sigo Seguros, very interesting company. One of the founders is in Bakersfield. They have launched an auto insurance product for Spanish speakers, which is a part of the market that is vastly underserved. Most of the major insurance companies don't really offer competitive insurance for Spanish speakers or people who are undocumented residents in California and Texas and Arizona and Nevada. So these guys have built a product that does that. They're growing very, very fast, and we're really proud that one of the co-founders is from Bakersfield and still works in Bakersfield. So that's a little bit about what we have in Fund 2. And as I wrap up here on the next slide, that was my last slide. So the website, I should have had a closing slide. So the website is kernventuregroup.com. You can also shorthand it kernvg.com. Either way, you can get there. You can contact me through that website. Again, I will promise you that we will take a call and do a Zoom, give you feedback on your idea, and tell you, whether or not it's investable for us, and if not, help connect you to someone else that can help. It's my pleasure to be here. I hope there's some amazing startups coming out of Bishop and Mammoth Lakes. And Kelly, thank you for the invitation again, and turn it back to you.
JP, fantastic stuff. It's great to have a seed capital group. Didn't have one of those a few years ago. Done a great job of growing that, and it's great to see so many deals even throughout all of Central California. So fantastic stuff. So we're going to move right along, and we'll fix the technical issue during the break. I have 2 speakers before the break. And our next speaker is Keith Brice. And Keith presented at our very first Eastern Sierra Capital Summit back in 2017. Talks about his fixed asset program that brings some great value as far as debt to a lot of businesses. Mr. Keith Brice.
Thank you, Kelly. It's kind of fun following JP and Linda. I've known them both for a few years now. I will tell you, I hate to say I'm the old guy in the room, but I feel like I'm the old guy in the room. I've been lending money for over 40 years. There is more capital in the system now than I've ever seen in my life, from VC, angel, to grant programs to the state, through SBA programs that I'm going to talk about. If you have a viable idea and a viable business, and have some patience. There is access to capital. It's amazing. And not even talking about the pandemic money, the ILPPP and all that stuff. So with that, I always like to start my programs showing projects because I'm a sort of a visual type of presenter. So we're going to start with the first slide here, Iris. And I try to give you an idea of the kind of projects because I like to sort of chum the water a little bit, think about, I know somebody that either, or I may even need to have a hangar or I'm on airport property. I think I heard Nate talk about some expansion at the local airport. Typically, they have a need for businesses around the airport. Usually it's on leased land. It's usually, this is the typical profile type of building that could be eligible for the kind of financing that I offer. Next. Fast food. JP talked about the food industry or restaurants. Our program, we're not afraid of fast food or restaurants. And I'll talk a little bit about how we look at them and how we qualify them. Pet lodge. Those that have pets, it is probably the fastest, most lucrative industry in the last 10 years. From grooming to lodging to hip surgeries to maintaining the pet's quality of life. So we have done a number of veterinary projects in every community. This community here, I think I've passed at least one vet facility. That's a eligible type of business for our program. Next one is mini storages. This is another crazy industry that I think we just have too much stuff because it is everywhere. They pop up everywhere, and believe it or not, they are SBA eligible. So we've done a few. This is one in Ridgecrest that we've done 2 phases, and they're looking at a 3rd phase. Okay, pizza. You know, this is again part of that restaurant theme. In this particular project here, they had been leasing this site. I'll talk a little bit more about how that's our sweet spot. And they had the ability to purchase it. And this is kind of crazy. This is right before the pandemic happened. And as soon as it happened, I thought, oh God, you know, these guys, you know, got into this debt. And little did I think it through that takeout, pizza, anything carry out, their numbers exploded. They went from doing a very good business to we just couldn't, you know, keep the pizzas in the ovens long enough. So timing, there's always winners and losers in different downturns in market. These guys were a winner right here. Next slide. This is what I call a unicorn. This is a piece of property in Bishop that's not owned by the tribe or by the water company. This is and it was kind of cool that I passed this on the way up here to the college. They had been looking for a building for 5 years up here. You know, you folks live here, you know, property is hard to find. And if you find the right property, you have to jump on it. And we were fortunate to be able to assist those guys with that. Next slide. And this is kind of, Kelly wanted me to show you this one. This is up in Mammoth. This is a repurposed type of property. It was a restaurant. So again, part of that whole theme of you know, trying to find property that would meet the needs of this small business owner. And we were able to assist them in this acquisition here. Okay, Iris. Okay, who we are. We're a not-for-profit organization. We've been around since 1980. We're kind of proud of that because, you know, we're not a fly-by-night. We don't just parachute into an industry and leave. We've been around for a while now. We were subsequently licensed by the SBA to offer what's called a 504 loan program. And what I'm going to talk about is a specific program primarily geared towards owner-occupied real estate. And I have to emphasize that we're not an investor program, it's owner-occupied real estate. We get our funds via the issuance of bonds. We're one of 260 like organizations throughout the United States that have been licensed by the SBA to offer these loan programs. Good, Iris, next please. Specific, commercial loans for expanding businesses, fixed rate below market financing, and now we'll talk about rates here. I'm not going to predict rates, but we'll talk about those in a few minutes. And again, primarily for real estate, and we will do some machinery and equipment. Usually it's machinery and equipment that are important to the real estate component of the business that we're doing. Examples, we're doing a cold storage facility that's looking at putting a new equipment line in. That will fall into our sweet spot. Typically our terms are 20 to 25 years. And then with machinery, we'll do 10 years. The challenge with machinery financing is the leasing companies are pretty aggressive and their terms are pretty good. So where our little niche is, we get into the used equipment market where the leasing companies won't necessarily do that type of lending. But as long as we can get a useful life from either the manufacturing or some type of appraisal, it falls into our sweet spot. Next slide, please. Advantages, long-term below market fixed rates. Our last rate was 5.49. Yeah, I hate to tell you, but a year ago it was 2.8. So, it's now, having said that, again, I mentioned my age a little bit. When I was a young loan officer, if you could get a fixed rate at 12%, you were happy. Because, I think it was 1981, rates went up to 21% for prime. So those that heard about that, I know I had to point to Iris, she's fairly young, but she doesn't know a rate under 8%, I guarantee you that. So a 5.4 or even a 6% rate, I think we have some lenders that may have the nerve to quote rates up here right now, but a 6% rate in this market is fairly good. The exciting piece of it is and our real hook is the equity injection from the small business owner. Typically, it's just 10%. So you think about that. Normally, if you go to a traditional lender and you want to buy a piece of property, real estate, they're going to say, great, we love it. We want 30% down. Well, taking 30% out of a small business owner's equity piece can impact their ability to operate and grow. So the 10% equity injection is really one of our main drivers of the program. It also allows, and I have banks, and I'm sitting here looking at Alta One right now, staring at me there, credit union. So I'm going to change my slides in the future to say financial institutions. They can participate in larger transactions. So I know there's a couple of small independent banks. I think Eastern Sierra is up here. There they are. What this does is that allow a smaller independent bank to participate in larger loans because they have certain capital requirements. But if they have a 50% loan to value, that tends to be more of an attractive loan for those guys. Okay, negatives. We have prepayment penalty. Anytime you have a fixed rate type of product, and the lending institutions will also typically have a prepayment penalty. Ours is within the first 10 years of the program. And because we get our financing via the issuance of bonds, there's certain times that are preferred when you can pay them off. And we don't do investor loans. Ours is strictly small business owner occupied. That's what we do. Next slide. Structure, lender 50%, our portion 40%, and the injection is 10%. Next slide. Oh, I did update the rate on here. Okay, but I still have a bank. It's going to be lender. Again, this is a typical structure. You would say you take a $500,000 project. Looking at 50,000 into it, you do a 6% rate, but that's combined on both loans. They're looking at about $2,900. So you throw taxes and insurance in there, they're probably, I'm gonna say about $3,800 a month. You compare that to a lease that they're paying, usually that's kind of a no-brainer. The challenge again in certain markets is finding that real estate, you know, because it's not a lot of available inventory around. Next slide. I mentioned for-profit. We have certain size standards. Again, we're a small business program, so if the net worth of the small business is over $15 million, it's ineligible, along with a net profit of $5 million during the previous 2 years. We qualify probably 98% of our customers. The 2% typically are surgeons and folks that are just making kind of stupid money that don't know why they're talking to us. But for the most part, most of our small business owners fit within that particular criteria. Next slide. SBA limits. You have a $5 million limit. It goes up to $5.5 million for manufacturers. And then it's all in and out. There's some secret sauce to the program, animal style and all as well. Well, if you utilize solar in certain projects, then you can have an additional $5 million worth of SBA eligibility. But the SBA said, okay, right, look, we get how you guys are doing it. Usually it's the hotel operators. We do a ton of hotels and they figure that out. So the unwritten rule is you can't have more than $15 million worth of solar or energy saving type of loans. Usually our projects range from 125,000. So we've done some large cold storage and some hotels that have gotten into the $18 million range. Next, please. Ineligible nonprofits. One of the things that the SBA did to us during the PPP is they opened up nonprofits as being eligible churches, but they are not eligible for our particular program. Passive businesses, prior defaults on federal debt, banks, gambling concerns, private clubs, cannabis facilities. I see at dinner last night, we were talking and lamenting the fact that they're now going to be in town. They are not eligible for SBA financing because we're a federal program. So albeit it may be legalized in various states, but with the federal program, it's not eligible. Next, please. Typical structure, and this is a little nuance. We always talk about the devil's in the details. If you're building a building, then the occupancy has to be 60%. Then you can short-term lease 20%, but that's 3 years or less, and no tenant's going to want to do that. So effectively, you have to occupy 80%. This is on a new ground-up building, then you can long-term lease the other 20%. Now, where the details come in, our monies can only participate with the tenant improvements for the owner-occupied suite. The operating company, and most of our structure, don't want to get too much into the weeds, but most people create an LLC to take title to the property and lease it back to the company. We do require those guaranteed. We do a lot of tenant improvement loans, but they have to own the property. So if you're in a lease and you're trying to do some TIs, this program's not the one for you. Next. Personal guarantees, we require them. Every once in a while, we get customers, hey, I don't guarantee anything. I say, congratulations, you're not going to be eligible for our program. So most lenders and I'll pick on the Eastern Sierra, even Alta One, they're going to want your personal guarantee. So I think JP alluded to skin in the game. Our skin in the game is you're going to personally guarantee the loan. Startups, special purpose. We do very few startups. And the reason behind it is most of our customers, before you make a capital purchase of a building, figure out if you make some money first. So we will do some startups if you're in the industry. We have, let's say attorneys that are with one firm and they got on their own, or technically that's a startup, or you have a vet that's working in a big veterinary clinic. He wants to go out and do their own thing. That's a startup. If we do that, then we do require additional equity into it, 15%. And if you're doing a startup on a special purpose property, then it's going to be 20%. We will not allow our lending partners to have a balloon on the loan, because the way the structure is, we're in a second trustee position. So if they make a loan, they're in the first, and they call it after 1 year, well, what do I got to do? I got to pay them off. So we require that they have a minimum of a 10-year term. Now they can do rate reviews every year. That's if the customer is willing to take a rate change every year, but most of them tend to tie their rate to the term of the loan. We are a jobs creation program, so the ability to create one job for every 75,000 of our money is a requirement, with exceptions, and you get into women-owned, minority, enterprise zone. Those conditions can be waived. Next, please. Real quick, limited, cold storage, tennis club, golf courses, swimming pools. I mentioned we do a lot of gas stations, by the way. If you ever looked at these gas stations, they used to start at maybe $1 million. Now they're floating in about $4 to $5 million for these gas stations, and it's insane. It's always a challenge with us because, we see the future, and we just see the future with EV, and we're making 25-year commitments on $5 million projects. So we really like to see that strength of the C store, and because what we've learned on the pandemic is you folks like convenience. You like to be able to go in and get your stuff. So the more amenities and services that are in there, the ability to survive if their gallonage numbers go down. The profits on gas stations right now are insane. They're just insane. So we do quite a few of those. Hotels, dairies, mines, and I mentioned many storages. Next, Iris. Processing fee, we charge about 1.5. It's about 2.7 that's in the loan, but we finance that. So you'll see our portion to be grossed up. We charge $2,500, and there's title costs and reporting and escrow fees. Next, please. Trying to wrap up with some buildings, metal buildings. We're not afraid of them. What we found is that we can get a good useful life, and in many cases, given where material costs are going, a lot of our clients are forced to go into that metal building arena. Next. Small shops. Again, I'm trying to give you a variety of these are your neighbors. These are maybe you that we lend to. So if there's a real estate component, it's owner occupied, then that's our sweet spot. Next, please. Hotels, I mentioned that to you. The SBA is the largest hotel lender in the United States. We do a ton of those, and it's going to be good operators. And these things are now going for some insane prices. So there's got to be a correction. I know what I paid last night per night, and it's just going with occupancy numbers now coming out of the pandemic are insane. People want to travel, people want to be someplace. So next, please. Medical offices, again, give you a feel for it. It may be you, it may be a relative, it may be your dentist, doctor, or whatever. Those are eligible projects for us. We do a lot of medical folks there. Next, please. Residential conversions, again, in certain markets, you got to think outside the box. And you may only find, if it's zoned properly, that you can find a house here in this community or another community, that if you can convert it, it can be eligible for an SBA 504 loan. Thanks. CPA office, again, give me a feel for everybody's got an accountant. Their property is eligible. Next. Existing land, if you tied up some property, then we can give you the appraised value if you've held it for 2 years. If not, then we give you what you paid for it. Lease option going towards equity, we get some of that, and then we get some owner carryback. Usually the owner carryback is you got somebody that's selling that land and it's overpriced, and they know it's overpriced and it doesn't appraise. Well, as lenders, we're only going to lend on the appraisal or the cost. So the owner is going to say, I don't care. Well, then we'll say, well, you got to take some paper back in behind that. Next, please. Multiple borrowers. We have a lot of customers that have used our program because they get the 10% equity injection. We don't take additional collateral. We're not, you'll hear somebody talk about the 7A. Ours is real estate focused. As a result, ours is based on what the success of the small business. And we will do projects on leased land. I mentioned the airport earlier. Most airport properties are on leased land. We just have to have, the lease has to be the minimum of the term of our loan. Most lenders wanted to go 10 years beyond that. So lease land projects don't hurt, don't scare us. Next. We'll meet with anybody, brother, sister, CPA. We'll go over what's required and talk about the good and bad. Been doing it for a long time, so we can cut through a deal fairly quick and let you know it's going to be eligible, it's not going to be eligible. We'll coordinate with our lender for the processing, and this SBA approval usually takes 10 to 15 days. And that's it. Please reach out to us, and there's a lot of good presenters up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Got to believe there's more 504 deals out there in these communities, so hopefully we'll see them down the road. Okay, our next presenter is going to be, with all that money that we have out there coming through the US Treasury, we're saying that 1.2 billion has got to go somewhere, so let's get it going here. And to help us do that, we're going to now bring up Alison from the California Pollution Control Financing Authority. Oh, I did it almost. So, Alison, come on up, please.
Good morning. Let's see. Thanks so much for inviting me, Kelly. And I'll be honest with you all, this is my first presentation on the implementation of SSBCI 2.0. So thank you for having me today. So this is California's deployment of SSBCI 2.0, federal money coming through to California. And next slide, please. So there's 2 applicants for the state of California. We get the most money out of all the states. And in fact, we're such a big state and we have so many different types and arrays of small business that there's not just one agency that could even if we wanted to, frankly, really be able to handle getting that 1.2 billion out within the 10-year time frame. So that 1/2 is through the state treasurer's office. That's my agency. California Pollution, CPCFA is how we refer to ourselves. And we have 2 programs under SSBCI, CalCap for small business and CalCap collateral support. And our partners in that distribution of capital are iBank through the Governor's Office of Business Development, GoBiz. And they have 2 programs, the small business loan guarantee, and then they are rolling out venture capital. You'll also see me make reference to Linda's organization, CALOSBA, and they are very important, going to be a very important integral part, especially for the small businesses themselves in this, but their portion has not yet come through. In fact, the US Treasury still hasn't even reached their application deadline yet. So next slide. Okay, so if you were around for SSBCI, the original, and now you're coming, if you were aware of that, and even if you weren't aware of it, these are things that are important to know about it now. One, as everyone has said, it's a huge amount of money, over $1 billion. The original SSBCI was, I believe, $168 million to California. So the scale is hugely different. The whole concept of SSBCI is incentivizing the investment of private capital in small businesses. So to be really clear, that money coming through is not in direct loans or grants to small businesses. It's incentives to financial institutions to loan their capital to small businesses. So when we heard people talk earlier about, what is the role of government, lean in, but don't put your hands on it. That's what this is for the lenders, for the financial institutions, leaning in, giving them a reason and a safety net for making those loans, but it's not directing them what to do. Because I know people always want to ask me, like, what are the interest rates or what are the terms? Those are between the financial institution and the small business. But the great thing about SSBCI 2.0 is it is going to have technical assistance specifically for the small businesses. And Linda named accounting, legal, and banking. Yes. And so helping people, it's a very complex financial ecosystem. I mean, it would be even if you were in a tiny state like, say, Rhode Island, but when you're in a big state like California, it's wonderful that there's so many different institutions and programs out there, but it is a lot for people to absorb. And so that's what technical assistance is for. It's not, I'm going to make my pitch for it. It's not saying you don't know how to run your business or you don't know. It's saying this is very complex. You can know your business in, out, backwards, forwards, and you still have to be able to know and navigate the legal parameters, the banking parameters. Your accounting needs to be in order. You can know that, you can be positive that you have a really excellent cash flow, but if you don't have the documentation for that, there's nothing that I can do to make a lender want to work with you. And I mean, we're not constructed to do that anyhow, but even if we were, I doubt that we could. So anyway, that's a really important feature of SSBCI 2.0. Next slide. And now I want, because you guys kept hearing pollution control, and raise your hand if you thought, what the heck does pollution control have to do with my small business? Okay, thank you. So yeah, it's a great question. So CPCFA is about as old as me, and so approved in 1972, began taking action in 1973. It has always been a financial entity under the state treasurer's office, again, incentivizing the investment of private capital. The original structure was tax-exempt bonds that mainly addressed air and water pollution on industrial scale sites. So don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of how our bond program works, but long story short, they're getting tax exemption, but it's private companies that own the project and are responsible for paying back the bond. And so originally we were doing them for that tax exempt category of pollution control. That's how we got our name. Years go by, they changed the tax code. We now do bonds in solid waste, water furnishing, and sewerage. And if anybody finds that interesting, come and talk to me after, because I did that for 3 years before I did do what I do now. And I did work in other programs before too, and I'll say construction management. So anyway, we have these incentive programs incentivizing the investment of private capital, and our big piece that is part of SSBCI and that is our highest volume piece is the programs called under CalCap. Next slide. So lots of details. I'm not going to read this all off to you, but the important things to know are that Capital Access Program, CAP, has a really specific definition and meaning under SSBCI 2.0 and to the US Treasury and to lots of people in this whole arena. But CalCap is a brand, essentially. And under that brand, we have several different programs, different niches, actually funded by different sources. The ones that fall under SSBCI 2.0 are CalCap for small business. That's its name. All of these programs are for small business, but that's its name. And CalCap collateral support. Next slide. Okay, so I don't know if the link is at the bottom. If in the chat, there should be, for the people who are online, a link to the brochure. I'm sorry, folks, those brochures aren't my office, not really helping you today, but we'll be able to get you links. It explains how the program works, like the sequence of events. It talks about what kinds of amounts of loans that can be enrolled and the types of small businesses that qualify. The answer is most all small businesses, with the types of federal exceptions that other people have noted. And it explains how it's really a financial institution driven process. And we're providing a safety net to the financial institutions by matching their and the borrower's contribution to what's called a loan loss reserve. So if we just think of that as like, it's a safety net for all the different loans they do, there's a small percentage from each party to the loan put into this account. And then if out of some of those, there's a default, that's where the financial institution has an opportunity to recover their costs up to the extent of what's in that safety net, that loan loss reserve. And so that is, designed to incentivize financial institutions to loan more to small businesses. But I have had this question, well, aren't they just going to enroll only the loans that they would already make? Is it real, is it really incentivizing them? That's the reason why they have to put up part of the fee too, so that they're paying a very small amount for that safety net, but it's not entirely free for them. So no, why would you put up money to do something you're already going to do? You're only going to put up money if it's going to expand what you were already going to do. And next slide, please. And then the collateral support. So again, this is a safety net type program. This one is structured a little bit differently. So in this one, you have a small business. They've come to the financial institution who has looked at their underwriting package and said, okay, this looks good, but you're under collateralized. Or maybe what we would hope to see is they'd say, well, it seems like you're going to be under collateralized, but we know we have this program. So even though we think you're under collateralized, we're going to go ahead and take a look at your whole package and determine if maybe we would want to use this program. So this is a program where up to 50%, it ranges between 30 to 50%. And I loved the special sauce in the brochure on our website. It goes into like, what are the types of businesses whose loans would get the special sauce. But that's how that one works. Again, a safety net, it's tied to that specific loan. And so if there would be a default, again, the financial institution has access to the funds that were put up as collateral by CalCap. Next slide. Okay, I promised Kelly that I would not talk about a whole bunch about what the qualifications are. That is what's in the brochure, and I will give you some examples. So I got a snapshot of data from our program folks. It's not quite 6 months because remember I said I asked for 6 months. I didn't remember to say 6 completed months. So I got like April, May, June, July, August, and part of September when I got the data set. But about 110 loans came through this 14 county area, the 14 counties that were invited for this event today. And I will be honest, a lot of them were in the trucking industry. And if any of you have heard of CalCap or CPCFA, it's probably for CalCap Card, which is again under that brand name, but very specifically serves heavy duty vehicles. But these loans were these were through our small business program. And it's because even if you buy a truck through the other, you need a trailer or you need other equipment. But I do have some other snapshots to show you. So next slide. Lots of Fresno County loans because big population relative to our other counties here. And we did, when I looked at this snapshot, I could also see Kern, Kings, Madera, Merced, Monterey, San Luis Obispo, Stanislaus, Tulare. So I'll be honest, this snapshot doesn't have loans that were enrolled from Inyo, Mono, Mariposa, San Benito, and Tuolumne. So room for improvement in terms of who is served for sure. Next slide. But these businesses that took these loans that were enrolled in the program, a lot of them clearly are established. They do report whether they're maintaining or creating jobs with the loan. So over those 110 loans, they maintained over 525 jobs. They added over 25 jobs. Only 2 of those companies said, I'm not maintaining any jobs with this. So that would be a startup. Next, lots of types of trucking. In Fresno County, an example would be a business that's in excavation and crop removal. They purchased inventory. They took a loan for less than $50,000 and they're maintaining 8 jobs with that. Next slide. Kern County nursing care facilities. You're going to see a lot of working capital and less than $50,000. It's not that our program can't enroll larger loans. It's that our program does meet the very small businesses. Lenders who are willing to work with them are using this program. And that's like over 90% of our loans not our loans, our enrolled loans are to businesses that have 10 or fewer employees, including those mom and pop or just mom or just pop, where it's one employee and that's the business owner. So Madera County, next slide. Okay, this Tulare County example, mobile food services. As a whole, we do see a lot of food trucks through this program. So that's a way that I mean, I'll be honest, to me, even $50,000 is a lot personally, but in the whole scheme of things of starting a business, being able to start a business and be in debt, for $50,000 is relatively reasonable. Fresno County landscape construction, they're a little bit bigger here. You see that they took in the range of $50,000 to $100,000. Next, San Luis Obispo, used car dealer, maintain one job. Madera County, some more working capital. Next slide. This is what I found interesting because I'll admit I'm still learning about all the different industries and all the different counties in California, but San Luis Obispo, lots and lots of construction companies enrolling loans through this program. And so they were all for working capital, all in that less than $50,000 range. And but look, I mean, they may not be borrowing huge amounts, but there's a lot of jobs that are being maintained and created in these companies. Next slide. And here's just some of the trades that they are in. This is actually not all of them. I just picked as many as I could fit on one slide. So let's see. And then here's the program. So in this not quite 6 month period, we have only 2 loans come through. We can go back to that one actually. Oops. There we go. Okay, so our collateral support program, this is the one that I was talking about. And this is that I said that, it's different. It's when they say, hey, we would loan to you, except for you don't have enough collateral. And this is the one that we really do hope to see grow under SSBCI because we have a lot more funds available for it now. So, so far in the past 6 months, we saw Kings County and Monterey County both have loans that came through. Both of these would probably not have. So our special sauce is for if the business is a green business, manufacturing, and a loan under $250,000. So that fertilizer manufacturer would fall under fertilizing manufacturing. They probably got the extra support, but not necessarily the egg product. But so that's an array of the types of loans that have recently come through this program. Now we'll go to the next slide. That's me. You follow us, if anybody's on Twitter, you can follow us at CalCap. And then next. So CPCFA is half of the state's SSBCI, and then iBank is the other half. We both have web pages. So mine is really long because everything is under the treasurer. So treasurer.ca.gov/CPCFA, CalCap/SB/SSBCI, or Google CPCFA SSBCI, and you should be able to find our page. iBanks is a little shorter, ibank.ca.gov/smallbusiness/SSBCI. So thank you so much for letting me, and oh, I should say timeframes. We have convoluted having 2 agencies, but I mean, it works, but the agreement with US Treasury has been signed and we are now in the stand-up phase of the programs. So we should have all the different moving parts completed. I think the deadline is like December 15th. So these programs are our programs are already up and running, but financial institutions will be seeing the funds from SSBCI at that point, but you could go start applying now. Yes. Each state, there's 5 types of programs allowed under the SSBCI program nationally. And so, but each state does them slightly different. So yes, other states have what are called capital access programs, /loan loss reserves. Others have collateral support, all these, the same categories. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alison French-Tubo, everybody. Well, that kind of wraps up the morning segment. This is a great opportunity as we take a break for those of you that are in person to be able to talk to your presenters and to ask specific questions about any deals. We will resume at 10:20 with the next group of presenters. Those of you that are visiting online, please feel free to email. You have the email in the chat for all of the presenters. Send them an email. If you have any specific questions, contacts, etc. Okay, we are back and ready to go with some more exciting new programs, some old programs, some soon to happen programs. And so our first presenter in this second session of the Capital Summit is, if everybody could please take their seats. Even those of you that are at home, please take your seats.
You have to yell. You have voice in here.
So Jennifer Whitney has an exciting new project in town, and she's going to come up and talk about it. I had the fortune of talking to Jennifer on the phone about a year ago about the Opportunity Zone. And at that time, we had done an Opportunity Zone webinar right before the pandemic. Well, after the pandemic struck, we were pretty much working with 100% existing businesses during that time frame. And there were people like Jennifer that wanted to start new and exciting projects. So she took that year or so and really went out and did an exciting amount of research work on the Opportunity Zone opportunities. And she is here now to share her experiences with you. Take it away, Jen.
All right. Thanks so much, Kelly, for creating this space today for all of us to learn and hear. So I started an Opportunity Zone fund. I'll tell you a little bit about me and how I got to this place. I moved to Bishop 2 years ago during the pandemic, and mostly because I wanted to get further away from urban areas. Like a lot of people, I think, reassess their values during the pandemic and wanted to find more space and get back to a simpler rural life. I had a vision for a business pretty soon after I got to Bishop, mostly from a hole in the market that I saw out of my own need, which was healthy food and a source of quality general merchandise. And so I thought, you know, I'll take my time. I'm enjoying my quiet rural life, and I'll build a brand and an e-commerce business, and it'll take a really long time for a building like what I'm looking for on Main Street to come available. Our Main Street is 3 blocks. Most of the buildings are extremely dilapidated. And I knew that I wanted something that was really a centerpiece that could have an impact on downtown. And so within, I think, 2 months of having the vision for the business, my favorite building came available, which is the old Ben Franklin building. And I figured out how to acquire it because I saw an opportunity. So the focus of our fund is sustainable adaptive reuse development. Whoops, can I go back to that slide? To elevate rural resources, strengthen community, and nourish people and land. Okay, next slide. So the time for Bishop, the time to invest in Bishop is now. I think everyone in this room knows that we're on the verge of massive shifts and there is more capital coming in. There's a lot of people in this room who have laid the foundation for this change to happen over a long period of time. And so for that, I'm very grateful, including getting us this designation as an Opportunity Zone. There are 2 designated opportunity zones in the Eastern Sierra. One is downtown Bishop, and the other one is southern Inyo County. I'll show you a map here shortly. As you can tell, just from my brief intro, I'm a pretty big picture, long game kind of thinker. So when I saw the vision for this project, I also wanted to ask, how can I help my community? How can I be of service? How can I create something that's going to be lasting? And so one of the challenges here in town has been a scarcity mentality. How do I deal with what's in front of me right now? I really wanted to create something that not only will fund my business, but can help fund other people's businesses that are aligned with my values and can create a stronger economy for our very remote rural region. I feel like after the pandemic, in rural places, we need economic sovereignty. We need a more localized economy. For us, a lot of that means agriculture. And there are many reasons why the time to invest in Bishop is right now. I'm not going to go through all of them. We've mentioned the airport. We've mentioned outdoor tourism and lots of outdoor industry. And those people like me moving here that are more educated, that are global, are well-traveled, need resources for rural living. What does it look like for to have a modern rural life? So I saw an opportunity to create a place that could not only show people how to honor and acknowledge this beautiful environment that we live in, because that's why most of us moved here, but also to help teach people how to live a more sustainable lifestyle that honors that. And we in the Eastern Sierra are so wonderfully positioned to be a model for that kind of lifestyle because people come here because they love our environment. So another reason why the time for Bishop is right now is because we have this incredible opportunity zone designation. Now, opportunity zones are basically excuse me, just a minute. Opportunity zones are a new 2017 legislation that was designed to attract private money to challenge rural and urban areas. Now, I have my own issues with capitalism. We know that financial structures are changing, but I feel like it's a both and situation. If we can attract private money and give investors a benefit, right, save on their capital gains tax, and have the opportunity to have impact on a community like ours, then it's a win-win situation. And I have sovereignty over my project, right? There's a lot of hoops to jump through with debt programs, government programs, which are all wonderful. And because my project is a business that occupies a building, it doesn't necessarily qualify for a lot of those things. And so I saw Opportunity Fund as a great opportunity. Because it's new legislation, it's changing all the time and it seems very complicated. I am one of only 2 funds so far in the Eastern Sierra. And there wasn't a lot of information, as Kelly mentioned, when I started. So it's really 3 basic benefits. Investors with a capital gain can defer their tax on their invested gain until December of 2026. Now, this potentially is going to be extended. It's up right now and could get extended, which would mean the benefit is growing. The second benefit is that the gain that they invest, they will pay no taxes on what they make off this investment coming out. Now, it is a 10-year hold. It's a long game, but that is a huge incentive for investment, right? And then additionally, depending on that person's unique situation, there are extensive additional depreciation benefits from the investment as well. They're unique to each investor's individual situation. Now, can I have the next slide? So these are the 2 opportunity zones in the Eastern Sierra. You can see downtown Bishop, and this is southern Inyo County, including Lone Pine, Olancha, some of Death Valley. These designations are made by the state based on poverty and median income levels. We here in Inyo County have a much more educated population than many of the other opportunity zones in the state. There are 879 designated opportunity zones just in the state of California. That represents 10% of the federally designated opportunity zones in the United States. Most of them they are all in challenge rural and urban areas. Opportunity zone is being utilized much more in urban areas because there are more resources to start funds like this. A fund like mine is rare. Most of them are held by corporations, people with a lot of capital. And so to have a fund started to support a rural small business by someone who lives in that community is uncommon in this space. Is it the down? No. Okay, next slide, please. So this is my fund. The strategy is to produce attractive risk-adjusted returns by investing in adaptive reuse real estate projects and value-added businesses in the Eastern Sierra Gateway region of California. The goal is to reinvigorate the heart of Bishop with a thriving, conscious, and sustainable model for adaptive reuse development while setting a new standard for green building and business. The projects we invest in will create jobs and foster a localized, creative, and culinary economy that increases cultural collateral, wellness, and economic and food sovereignty for our remote rural region. Now, all of these investments are a 10-year hold to get the full gains benefit. We are currently 55% funded on our initial raise. It is a $10 million fund. This initial raise is about half of that. And we are actively looking for investors that align with our value. It is a mixed fund, so people both who need the capital gains benefit and regular accredited investors can invest in our fund. Next slide, please. And this is really the overarching vision, right? We are locals, we live in our community, and we believe in both successful business and community prosperity. So we're here not only to create a profit for our investors, but to contribute to our community. I just went over the creating jobs. Our civic leaders have done an amazing job of creating the mixed use overlay plan over the last several years, which allows for projects like mine and is going to help bring funding into our Main Street area to revitalize these very dilapidated buildings, to create a more walkable downtown, to create a more green downtown, and to add more housing and solve some of the major problems for growth, barriers to growth in our community. We're here to honor and elevate the community and land with a values-first approach guided by integrity, inclusivity, and stewardship. And we believe that when people know where their food comes from and we have food sovereignty in a remote rural region, they get a sense of connection and place, which makes them value the place much more. Next slide. So this first project in our fund is a pioneering mixed-use retail, cafe, hotel, and indoor-outdoor event space development that intentionally weaves the old and new with an emphasis on sustainable, healthy, and local. This is the property that I acquired last year, the old Ben Franklin building in the center of Main Street in downtown Bishop. Can I have the next slide, please? Part of the need outlined in the downtown plan and my vision was to create a place to gather, learn, create, and share resources, a centralized place for healthy gathering. Sorry, let me go back. Yeah, our slides got a little shuffled. They actually are much prettier than this in our presentation. So this is the property. This is shows you the front room of our building. It was originally the Arcularius City Market when it was built around the turn of the century in 1911. It housed the Central City Market and served as a gathering place with a boarding house upstairs. That's the lower right picture. This upper right picture was the G&E 5 and Dime, which occupied the building until the 1950s when it became Ben Franklin.
This is our online group, so just advance that.
Oh, it's not, it wasn't working when I advanced it.
Oh,
Sorry.
is that the one?
That worked. There we go. That's the one I'm on. Thank you. Okay. So the vision, oh, that's so much easier for me. The vision is a best-in-class mixed-use space designed as a hub of the community and a timeless roadside stopover in the heart of the Eastern Sierra. I'm so inspired. I went on so many road trips as a child, and I spent 15 years covering rural South Texas. And I loved getting to visit towns that had this amazing central gathering place that held its history and its agricultural culture, right? So I wanted to create a place like that for Bishop because I see so much value here, but there's really no central place to see it, learn about it, explore it, and experience it. Okay. All right, it worked. So this is a little overview of the project. This is the vision for River Queen Provisions, which will occupy the first floor of the building. Retail and grocery, general merchandise, specialty groceries, home goods, clothing, personal care, and gifts, all sourced regionally and sustainably. And then additionally, a farm to table cafe, all sourced from local growers, ranchers, and producers. And then upstairs, our event space, second and third floor, indoor, outdoor event space, and 8 boutique guest rooms, a meeting place of community and commerce, and beautiful, uniquely local, high-tech, low-touch rentals in the heart of downtown. The occupancy rates are consistently going up in our region. Many people want to visit more and more each year. We've already completely recovered from pandemic challenges. Our occupancy rates are back up and still increasing. Sustainable tourism, as the county mentioned in their introduction, is a huge part of our focus as well. But we want to be a place where everyone comes to gather. We want to be a place that appeals to locals and tourists alike. This is my amazing small team of women. Funds are an incredible resource for funding, and they require a massive amount of administration and compliance. And so I could not have created this without my team. It's been amazing, the people that have shown up to support this project. I also want to say thank you to my amazing office manager, Victoria, who's over here, who she and I sitting in the office along with our team on Zoom made this project happen from pretty much zero this year. So anyway, I highly recommend reaching out to consultants, asking for help, getting a good team behind you if you're going to take on something like a fund. But I also want to point out that my fund, after we get our additional raise funded, will be looking to invest in other businesses in the Eastern Sierra that share our values and vision, particularly agriculture, regenerative agriculture, and cottage food businesses. For an opportunity zone fund, 90% of the funds have to be in the zone itself, in the physical designated zone. The other 10% of the funds can be invested outside of the zone. So if you do have a business idea or need funding for something that aligns with our values and vision, please certainly reach out to me. I would love to talk about collaborating. And then I want to share this quote that I read that really stuck with me. We read a study by the Economic Innovation Group on redefining what rural prosperity and geography of newly affluent rural communities looks like. And the quote is, "Steady progress, not spontaneous renaissance, is the more common path to rural prosperity." And that's what we've been building here on the civic level for a long time to make projects like mine possible. And we have to look at the big picture and the long game. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. And I see that the most successful businesses are solving a problem or fulfilling a need, which so much money is being spent outside of our market because of the lack of resources here. And that's part of what I saw when I moved here, was that this has become an Amazon town because we don't have resources locally to buy locally made products. And so it's really time to shift that tide and bring the money back into our community by creating more economic and food sovereignty for this region. So if you're interested in this project, please do reach out to me. I'd love to share more details about it. And I thank you all for your time.
Well, there's a dynamic project for you. Great job. Keep up the great work. Okay, moving right along. Our next presenter is Mr. Curtis Clark. And Kurt gets the fun job of talking about, you know, a lot of the things that you can do to prepare, but also all these lists of alternatives, because when we get here today, we've already talked about dozens of programs. And really, for me, at the Small Business Development Center, a lot of what we see and work with are alternative programs, things that most people don't talk about. We have our advisor, Jim Thompson. Jim, stand up. You can't see Jim at home, but Jim was not only our valued consultant during the pandemic here on the East Side, but he did a really innovative crowdfunding technique and crowdfunding campaign using Kickstarter and raising $38,000. And we kind of highlighted that back in 2019 at our last Capital Summit. But really, since 2019, Jim and I were talking just the other day, and really nobody is using crowdfunding yet. And there's such an opportunity, particularly with a product, but there's also services and other aspects that can really come in. So those are some of the things that, as I give Kurt Clark his long-winded introduction with a long segment in the middle on crowdfunding, so you can skip that. We have a lot of alternatives, and he's going to discuss them now. Kurt Clark, the Central California Executive Director of the SBDC program.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you all for having me here. And it's always nice to come back to Bishop. It's been about 5 years since I've been here. And I'm just blown away by the vitality of this community, by just the heart and soul that is here that represents both vision. Jennifer, it's really hard to follow you after that inspirational vision. Kelly does that to me all the time. He always puts me right behind the person that everybody's all amped up about. And then I talk to you about how the SBDC can help you. So hopefully it's not too much of a letdown, but it'll definitely be a step down. But I think some good practical information. Just a little bit about me. I've known Kelly since 1995. I became an elected official kind of accidentally, kind of walked into, hey, you should run for city council by one of my closest friends. Sure, why not? And I was elected. And then, I'm not sure if you've ever seen that old movie, the guy that gets elected, I think it's, he gets elected senator, and then the very, very last line of the movie is, now what do we do? So it was kind of my epiphany. But I served on a board. Kelly was the SBDC director, and got to know him very well, golfing buddy. And then he hired me as a part-time consultant. I was the Friday consultant at SBDC. And so I got to work with a lot of clients, very similar to many people in this room. And it really inspired me because I'm a local Central Valley guy. Honestly, never lived more than 50 miles from where I was born. It's just been, you know, my heart is in the Central Valley. My heart is in California. And Bishop reminds me a lot of the town Oakdale that I grew up in, which is close to Modesto. So fast forward, I work part-time. Kelly leaves to take on new adventures. I became the center director of Modesto in 2003, managing the program. And in 2018 was hired by UC Merced to be the regional director. So SBDC has been in my blood, part of my life, small businesses. My family is just a whole host of serial entrepreneurs throughout my family. So entrepreneurship is just like getting up and having breakfast. That's just what you do in the morning. And you go to work and you run your business. So I want to share some things that I'm going to start my timer here, and I'm going to get done early. I'm going to try my best to get done early so we stay on schedule. So finding capital for your business is kind of the topic I'm going to talk about from the SBDC lens, Small Business Development Center. As I think everybody knows, Kelly's been doing a great job over here in Bishop with his center out of Bakersfield, and having great consultants over here to provide resources to the small businesses in this community. No cost. We help you. We're here to be your mentor, your partner, your friend, encourager, kick you in the tail if you need that too. But really just to help the whole ecosystem get the information it needs, the resources it needs, and to be able to move businesses forward. And that's really what SBDC tries to do. We're federally funded, we're state funded through GoBiz, great level of funding over the last 5 years from the GoBiz office. And so SBDC is more powerfully positioned than we have been in the last 20 years going forward. So what do you get from the SBDC? What's kind of the typical SBDC experience? Typically you sign up for service, which is super easy, takes 3 to 5 minutes online to become an SBDC client. It's no cost, it's confidential, there's no gimmick, no trick. We don't share your information with anybody without your permission. And your SBDC consultant that you're assigned with gets to know you. We'll have an introductory meeting, get to know your product, your service, your experience, your passion. And when it comes to finding capital, which is what we're here to talk about, they need to know your financial story. Again, it's confidential, it's non-judgmental, doesn't matter what's in your history, doesn't matter your circumstance, your situation. Our job is to help you move forward. Your consultant will review your financial information, your personal financial statements. You're going to have to turn all this information over to your funder anyways. You might as well start with your SBDC consultant / friend and have that candid conversation that you can then prepare for that more polished professional presentation to your lender. They're going to need to see your past and current tax statements, your income statement, balance sheet, and your financial projections. And many times I've met with small business owners, thousands over the years. And a high percentage of the time it's, I don't have a balance sheet. I don't know how to do financial projections. Well, great, you came to the right place because we're going to help you do that. We're going to teach you how to do that. And that's all part of what SBDC does. Doesn't matter where you are. When you are in business, if you're doing everything, wearing all the hats, or you have a bookkeeper or a professional that helps you, we're here to help you advance, whatever that takes. Your consultant also helps to identify possible funding sources. Once they get to know your business, know your situation, know how much money you're looking for, we look at options. What are the options out there? Are you going to borrow money? Is it debt financing? Are you looking for investors? And there's been several that have talked about equity investments. I really like the Kern investment group. There was some really good information in that early presentation. And then for, what used to be the 3 Fs, and back in the day we called it friends, family, and fools. But I like the friends, family, and fans, because in the world of crowdfunding, really what you're looking for, if crowdfunding is where you're going, is you want a whole bunch of fans that are all excited about your product, and hopefully not fools. Bootstrapping is a very kind of broad-based term for just kind of doing it yourself, figuring it out. Do you have an asset you can sell? Do you have an old piece of property you inherited that you're not doing anything with, that you might be able to liquidate and turn it into cash and invest that in your business? Do you have maybe some antiques that are valuable? Depends, again, situation, how much money do you need, how quick could you liquidate, etc. Assist in the preparation of the ask, and that's really what it comes down to. All this preliminary work is getting to the point where they can't go in and represent you. That's not allowed by our federal partner. Not the rules of the SBDC do not allow SBDC to represent you or negotiate on your behalf, but they can get you right up to that point and help you walk in confident, prepared, knowledgeable, understanding the terms that the banker is using or the lender is using. They can help you put together a application package, a formal pitch deck, which the reason I drew a distinction between those two is equity investors typically are going to expect a formal pitch deck. You better know what you're doing. You better be able to answer their questions. An informal pitch deck might be, you got a rich uncle and you say, hey, Unc, can you give me $100 grand to get my business off the ground? I got this great idea. Well, he's probably not going to whip out the checkbook and fill out the check and hand it to you. He's probably going to want to know, hey, what is this business all about? Do you want me to invest? I need to know. I have questions. You better have the answers. So that's kind of the distinction in the formal versus informal pitch deck. And then lastly, taking stock of what assets you have or will have going forward in the short term, and explaining and translating lenders' language and loan terms. You need to know that stuff before you walk in the door. Couple of things that you need to know if you're going to look for money is there's some myths and some truths, and the length of the lists of the myths. Wow, say that 5 times. Is a lot longer than this, but I just threw a few on for the slide. It's not possible to get startup capital outside of an equity injection. Lending institutions don't lend to brand new companies. You must have perfect credit in order to go talk to a lender. And the SBA, the Small Business Administration, who guarantees a lot of loans, declines startups all the time. I mean, that's, it's just everybody knows that. Well, typically these are myths. So certainly there's a truth to every myth, right? There's a grain of truth. But by and large, these have become kind of urban legends, myths that are expanded greatly beyond what the actual truth is. The truth is there's debt money out there for startups. There are programs designed, and typically they're smaller amounts of money, but there are programs designed, debt financing programs to help start a business. Banks are more lenient when we partner with them, and then we as the inclusive we. You as the business owner, your family, other investors you might have, or people in the family that are going to be in the business, the SBDC, other community partners working with the bank. So you bring in not just Sally Smith, but you bring in Sally Smith and all these other people you've been working with that are your cheerleaders, your fans, your potentially legal partners in the sense of investors or people that are willing to be partners in the business, or just people that are well known in the community that have formal or informal leverage. And the current economy has a lot of opportunities. My gosh, 395 is booming. So your local economy, here, huge opportunities. Yes, there's some constraints. Well, I can't find the location I want. Oh, there's already 3 other breweries in town. But if you understand the market and you see the potential, you see a space in the market where you can take advantage of a niche or just an underserved area, that's an opportunity. And there's a lot of opportunities right now post-pandemic. Non-traditional bank financing can be an option. And non-traditional, there's a lot. And I'm going to go through a slide with some of them. But there are a lot of non-traditional funding sources in the marketplace. And the SBA will guarantee startup loans. There are special programs, Community Advantage, and a few others that the SBA will get behind and help with startup businesses. Many of our Central California SBDC advisors work directly with alternative capital resource partners. And again, I'm not going to spend time talking about these because I've got 7 minutes left. But there are programs, the SBA program that I mentioned, the Community Advantage. There's various community revolving loan funds. Counties, most counties have them. I'm not sure if Inyo County has an RLF. Kelly, what is it? Soon. There you go. Is that breaking news? Not really. Okay. So revolving loan funds can be very beneficial in the community. Transactional lenders can be very quick turnaround. It's usually very short-term money. Hey, I need to buy this piece of equipment. I've got someone that will give me a loan, but I need to buy it now because it's 20% off, or there's only one left. And so that's an option for very short-term money. Hard money lenders, typically, those are private individuals who specialize in lending money. It could be in a specific space in the market, housing, property, equipment, different areas. But hard money lenders typically are not banks, right? They are individuals with money who can make a little bit more lending to you. It's not the same process. Typically, if you can get the funding, it doesn't take as long because it's private. State guarantee programs, online lending sites. I skipped over micro lenders such as CDFIs and FTCs. And there's a really good program. Kelly might have information. I know we can get you information on borrowing from 401k. Not something I recommend if you're my age and you're planning on retiring relatively soon. But it is a potential source, and there are legalities that you have to put together. But there are specialists out there who will help you borrow from your 401k to invest in your business. Some of these others, again, down to 5 minutes. So I don't want to spend too much time because I have a couple more slides I want to get into a little more detail. But everybody's heard of crowdfunding. That's our fans, and venture capital angel investors. And there's some really good programs for veterans, one particularly called Veteran Launch. And they're based out of Sacramento. We can get you in touch with the contacts at those different sources of lending. So what lenders look at, they look for in loan applicants. The 3 C's, most everybody's heard of the 3 C's of credit. You know, basically it's cash flow, credit history, and collateral. There are other C's. I've done presentations with up to 7 C's. I get real creative. But basically, the 3 C's is where you start. Your credit score, you can get a free credit report. I just did one the other day because I had a question, something flagged in one of my credit card statements. It's like, well, why would my credit go down by 30 points? This isn't right. So I pulled my credit report, nothing there. Well, at least there's no, I'm not buying anything. I don't care that my credit went down 30 points, but credit score. But it was, I got that report in literally 10 minutes. I had the information I was looking for. Package your loan. It's very important that you have a plan for your business, that you include that in your narrative about what you're going to do with the money. Put your financial loan package together. That's driven typically by documents from the lender. You must have a personal financial statement, which includes, usually is required to include global cash flow. So you have a spouse or someone that is participating in the loan that has an alternative source of revenue that will help pay your or living expenses or other expenses that the business isn't going to be, revenue from the business is not going to be required. So that can help the overall cash flow. Key thing before you meet with the funder, be prepared. You must be prepared. And your SBDC consultant can coach you. You can go through rehearsals about the presentation and really go in with confidence. Be positive and excited, because if you're not excited about this new business venture, why would the bank want to lend money to you? You better be excited. But don't be overconfident or unrealistic. Stick to the facts. If they ask you a question you don't know the answer to, don't pull one out of thin air or some other location. Avoid landmines and quicksand. So we'll get into that, but the basic question, I used to hear this all the time. People would come in and they'd say, hey, I need to get a business loan. How much do you need? How much can I get? That is not the question you want to ask your banker. You need to go in knowing exactly how much money you need and what you're going to use it for, how you're going to pay it back. Oh, wow, we got to the thank you slide and I still got 2 minutes. Are there any questions? Wow, I love it. I did such a great job in my presentation. There's no questions. The slide deck will be made available upon request, or Kelly may send it out to everybody who left their email. Information about SBDC's no-cost services is available at our regional website, centralcaliforniasbdc.com. And from there, you can connect with any of the service centers, is what we call an SBDC location in the community. And you can sign up very easily, again, 3 to 5 minutes, become a client. It's free, it's confidential, no catch. Kelly's still here, they haven't run him out of town, so he's a good guy, he's a trusted partner. And anything else? And I'll give you a minute back, Kelly. Thank you all for your time today.
Thank you, Kurt. You're too kind. We have to check on your accuracy, though. What is the 7 C's? I mean, are we sailing or something? While I'm pointing out our SBDC references that are available to you here before we leave the SBDC portion of our show, I want to point out Jay Thompson in the back. And Jay has worked with a number. Jay, stand up, please. He's worked with a number of businesses throughout Central California. And has he helped them get capital? Yeah, you knew that was coming. So in the 12 years that he's been with the SBDC, he has assisted his clients in raising the last time I checked, and this is probably more now, the last time I checked, it was over $84 million. That does deserve a wow. Yeah. So, Jay. So, and how does he do that? He drives from Bakersfield up here, even though he's got clients up here, to attend this, so he learns even more secrets in order to get his clients money. So thank you for all you do, Jay. Okay, we are going to move on with our next SBDC or SBA lender. And yes, I even get confused between SBA and SBDC at times. Our SBA lender, Craig Howells, and Craig is with Mission Bank. I've known Craig for more years than I like to admit, about 25 years. And really why I like bringing people to conferences like this is because I have vetted these people. I have been in the trenches. We have done deals. I know what it takes, and I know the ones that are really on the more aggressive side at times. One of the first deals Craig and I worked on was in the western side of the Sierra, right outside of Yosemite, Highway 120. And I remember we worked with a man who was in his 70s at the time and had a unflagged resort, a fishing resort on the Tuolumne River. And when I started working with him, he just said, no, I can't get financing. I've been doing this for 35 years and I've tried for 35 years. Well, I can tell you Craig Howells made that loan for an expansion, and they have been going ever strong ever since at the right outside of Yosemite. So Craig, you know why you're here now. You're here to give out some money. So how about some wisdom and some money? Craig Howell, SBA Division Manager, Mission Bank.
Morning, everyone. Let's see here. All right. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and listening to me. I know that Kelly told me I had 4 minutes to speak, and I provided him 107 slides. So, anyway, he cut it down, obviously. So, and I'm just joking. I think there were 47, but still way too many slides. I wanted to first off state and that don't listen to what Kurt said about all the stuff that we need, tax returns, personal financial statements, all that stuff. We don't care about it. We make loans on a handshake basis. In my car, in my trunk, I have a bag of money. I need all of you to line up in a single file line in alphabetical order, and we will get you money when this is all done. But anyway, all joking aside, I am the SBA Division Manager for Mission Bank. We're based out of Bakersfield. I work remotely out of Fresno. So anyway, do I advance these things? Let's see here. All right. This is a little on me. I've been around a long time. I worked for a lot of banks. If you name a bank, there's a good chance I worked for them at one point in my career. Little history on our bank. We're started in '98. We have offices in these cities, a couple in Bakersfield. We sold a couple of our offices or shut an office down. We had one in Ridgecrest, and I believe we had one in Mojave. So, but we have them, and we still do lending out in those areas. We're at 2 billion right now, so we're a decent sized bank. We can do a lot of things. Some of the stuff that makes this unique with my department, there's just 3 of us. I have a funder closer, myself, and then I have a servicing manager. We all have buku experience. We've all been SBA managers at different places. So when you work with us, you're getting experienced people. I've even worked at the SBA in Fresno as well. So I have a lot of connections and friends that I can get answers for or get things done. So, all righty. So why do we exist? Why does my division exist at Suncrest Bank? Basically, we want to provide lending to small business owners and provide them with, financing with reasonable terms and rates. And so this is why I'm here. Kelly said, come here and speak about SBA 7A. And it's the kind of the flagship program of the SBA. I think it came out in 1953, if I'm not mistaken. But, so this program is kind of a catch-all program. You can do a lot of things with it. And So basically you can get loans from 7 to 25 years. And here's a list of, just some ideas of what you can use the money for: working capital, machinery and equipment, furniture and fixtures, land and leasehold improvements, and debt refinancing. These are kind of the rates and terms for loans. You can see prime has been moving up, so you can do the math. I think prime is at 6.25 right now, I think, last I checked. But anyway, loans that are 15 years or longer, you will have a prepayment penalty that will last 3 years. It'll be 5% year 1, 3% year 2, and 1% year 3, which is actually pretty good in terms of prepayment penalties. A lot of banks want 10 years or even 5 years. So the program is really good if you're just getting in the door. And let's say later on you want to refinance it conventionally. It has a very short prepayment program or term. These are the types of businesses that we typically finance or have financed with these programs. I've done a lot of hotels, motels, gas stations. It's I forget the statistic, but statistically, most of the gas stations and hotels have been financed with some form of SBA financing, at least at some point of its origination. There are, I've done tons of convenience stores, done laundromats, contractors. Like I said, there's, you name it. If it's a for-profit business, there's a chance that I've touched it. Ineligible businesses. Right off the bat, nonprofit businesses are not eligible for SBA 7A financing. And you can kind of look through the list here. These are ineligible businesses. The one thing that I was going to point out is the 1/3 from the bottom, which is prior loss to the government. That would exclude you from getting an SBA 7A loan. Areas of credit consideration. This is the kind of stuff that Kurt was speaking about earlier. We're looking at cash flow. We're cash flow lenders. So we're looking at the primary source repayment, which should be the business, obviously. And then secondary would be, if you have other income, let's say you have a side gig or perhaps a spouse, or you have investment properties and stuff like that. Anyway, we look at management history and credit history. We don't have a minimum credit score or RET. We do look at your management experience. We want to see that people have industry experience before we would lend to them. This is just an example of a deal that I've done. Like $1.5 million gas station, they put in 225, ended up doing the loan for $1.275 million, did a 25-year loan. And at the time it was prime is, obviously at 4. So that rate is a little low right now. A Subway, I did this one in Visalia, and the person came in 20% down, did a 10-year loan. And they're doing quite well, by the way. Another example, startup medical practice that I did, it was a guy so he could buy some equipment, and he came up with 20% down, and he's doing well as well on that. We're skipping over that because 504 is my friend Keith Brice over there, who we partner with a lot on 504. And here's the state guarantee program, just a little tidbit here. You can use it to purchase, construct, or improve real estate or facilities, working capital. These are all very similar to SBA 7A loans, but it comes with a state guarantee. And I think I went to a barbecue with the Valley Small Business Development Corp, I believe it was a week ago. And that number, I believe, has been changed to $5 million, if I'm not mistaken. So that slide needs to be doubled. But state guarantee is very, very similar to the SBA 7A loan. And we also support that program as well. USDA, this is a program that it's perfect for this area because you have to be rural and you have to have a population size below 50,000. And so it's can be used for profit and nonprofit businesses and cooperatives and and these other areas that you can use it for. So here's where it talks about the 50,000 in population. There's a special website that we go to, and we can enter addresses and stuff like that. So obviously here you don't have to worry about that, but in some areas, you know, you might come close to that 50,000 figure, and so we do check those addresses. Eligible use of proceeds. You know, I won't go through them all here, but I've used them primarily to acquire real estate or refinance manufacturing facilities and stuff like that. They're very into, you know, wanting to know if they're saving jobs or creating jobs, much like all the other programs. Collateral required. You know, they have like a discounted collateral calculation rate that they use, and they're just looking to see that there's sufficient collateral. Terms, they've got pretty long terms. I will tell you that most banks will not go 4 years. I'll tell you that. Even though the program says you can go 40, most banks are comfortable at 25 to 30, and that would be for like real estate. Fees, the guarantee fee is 3% of the guarantee amount. These are some examples of some BNI deals I did. I did this deal in Fresno. It was a BNI deal. It was an investor property. A gentleman out of Southern California owned this Rite Aid property, and actually it was in Fresno, and it was weird because, you know, Fresno has a population base greater than 50,000. However, this property sat on a county island, so I put it in the location directory, and it popped up that it was eligible, which was interesting. We were happy to do it. And so another deal, I did a packing house. This would have been near Kern in the Central Valley. And this was actually a project that was highlighted by the USDA when the Assistant Department of Agriculture came into Fresno a few years back. I was asked to speak and do a slideshow for that, for the Department of Agriculture. This is a property that I did also with USDA. It's a resort. This would be the Pines Resort up in Bass Lake, if you're familiar with it. And these folks, I think they went to like 30 or 40 lenders, and it was, they were in a 1031 exchange, and they had, we had like 40 days to close. And they had, and I closed it in 28. So they were going to lose their tax advantage from their 1031. So they were quite happy. And this is me. This is my phone number, and trying to see if there's anything else that I should cover. I was just going to say that in my experience from working in this area, I was working for Bank of America Community Development Bank. And so I financed personally projects in Mammoth Lakes, Bishop, and there was I guess a snowboard shop up in Mammoth that I financed, and I guess they're still doing well. So it's kind of cool to hear about that stuff. So thank you for your time. I would love to talk to you if you're interested in any financing. And like I said, please line up in a single file line. Buy my car. I drive a Honda Accord. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yeah, you forgot to thank us.
Thank you.
That was a joke, because his next slide actually had that I just forwarded. One thing I want to mention is that we were planning to have a few others here today, and I'll mention we were planning on having Andy Cito from the U.S. Small Business Administration, and he was going to talk a lot about the other SBA programs that we haven't really heard. But a little thing happened with the budget last week and a continuing resolution, and federal agencies really find it hard time to travel, one, a week into their new fiscal year, and number two, with a continual resolution, which they do is when they basically don't shut down the government and get a 3-month pass on the budget. So unfortunately, Andy couldn't join us today. And of course, the first thing was what, you're doing it on October 7th? Why are you doing it then? So maybe we'll try to get the date a little better next time. Busy town tonight too, or last night. So another person who couldn't come for the very same reason was Mr. Daniel Johnson, who is the U.S. regional development individual from this entire Central California region. And he had hopes to travel up as well. And they have really some unique different programs. And one of them I just want to share with you really quickly that I think is underutilized in our area. It's a grant program. And it's an acronym that's VAPG, and it stands for the Value Added Producers Grant. And so small agricultural producers, what they can do is they can go through this grant process through USDA. And they have anywhere between the last few years between about 25 million and during the pandemic, they had some CARES Act money, so it ballooned to about 78 million. But this is a proposal that you go through and you can use it individual businesses. We had hoped to work with a wine grape growing region in Kern County on an application. It didn't quite happen last year, but those are the kind of applications that you can see out of it. And you can see individual businesses that want to do value added producing. So you're taking your commodity and you're extending it into a value added state. And the federal government through the USDA Rural Development does that particular program. And a number of other programs that are really quite unique and people really don't get a good chance to learn about those. So I did want to mention that our federal partners couldn't be here today and throw out one other little tidbit. So moving right along, it gives me great satisfaction to introduce the CEO of Alta One Credit Union. And I have to tell you that I think I was in this very building the time that Alta One found out that they had received the very first CDFI, which stands for the Community Development Financial Institution. And I'll let Stephanie talk about that more. But learned about that designation, I think I was in this very same room at an event back on May 31st. So we are very excited. And when I learned, and a lot of my colleagues learned, that we have a CDFI located in Kern County, we were very excited. I was even more excited because the Alta One footprint echoes our SBDC, Kern, Inyo, and Mono counties. And I know the presence of being here in Bishop and the importance it is here in the community. So when I met Stephanie Sievers, who is an example of the brain drain can work two different ways. She came from us from Texas rather than everybody else that seems to leave for Texas. And she managed credit unions there and came here. But when I met her at the Ridgecrest, which is actually the Indian Wells Valley Outlook Conference in February, she told me that we want to do a lot more business lending. And I got another smile. So anyway, we have a great resource that's happening with the CDFI, more business lending throughout this region. And we have a dynamo of a CEO in Stephanie Sievers. So Stephanie, come up here and tell us what's going on with Alta One.
Okay,
So the intro slide just comes down, but
got it.
go back there.
I got it. No,
You
definitely.
got it.
That's with the formatting I see. That's what everybody's been saying, right? I got it now. And then
Yes.
hi, y'all. Nobody says hi to you guys at home. Watching, looking up. Great. Okay, yeah. So hi, y'all. I'm Stephanie Sievers. I am from the South. So I do say things like y'all. And if you never heard the word fixin', I say that too. It means getting ready to. All right, so there we go. So now we're all good on the key terms. We can proceed. So before we begin, I think it's important that y'all get to know who I am a little bit. So I want to say hello. My name is Stephanie Sievers. I am from the South. I recently moved here to be the CEO of Alta One a little over a year ago. So last June is when I started. And I have 4 kids. My husband's an architect, and we told him we're going to move to California. And they said, how close is it to Disney? And so then they decided to come on board. So yeah, so I am most recently from Austin, Texas. And it is true, everybody was going that way, but I actually think that I'm making the better choice coming this way. So y'all, it is better here. There's no mosquitoes, no humidity, and just like the location is just fantastic. We are so close to everything, and it's beautiful here. So the other thing I want to say is I'm sorry. I think it's worth pointing that out. Right, because I am the CEO of Alta One, and Alta One has been in this region for 75 years. It's our 75th anniversary this year, so yay us.
right? But you might be like, well, maybe I didn't know about that. And that's on us because we weren't always there for you the way that we should have been, quite frankly, that's the truth. And so I'm apologizing for that. And my background is I have an enormous amount of schooling. I have 3 master's degrees. I do a lot of work. I started as a teacher. So education is extremely important for me personally. So you'll see that in all the things that we've done. So we talked about CDFI, I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. But I really think that economic growth and development is the key for everything. And so I'm heavily involved in that. I've worked with startups, angel funds. I have a whole track record of working with investors because it is honestly what powers us. And Alta One is a not-for-profit. We are a financial cooperative. People helping people. That's why we don't call them customers. If you bank with Alta One, you are a member and you're actually an owner and you're my boss. So thank you for being my boss. I appreciate that, right? And so because of that, we have a duty to really get involved in our communities. And that is really why I'm personally here instead of Karina, who's actually she manages our branch here, right? But I'm here because it's important. And I need you to know that it's important. That's why I personally show up. So our mission, which I think is worth saying, is to improve the inequalities that exist in income, wealth, and access to financial solutions, right? So that is our focus. To improve income, to improve wealth, and then provide access to financial solutions. And that is what you've heard today, tons of access to financial solutions, right? And we definitely are a part of that. So we are CDFI. This is really a big deal. I did not actually know coming in here that we would be the first in Kern County. This is the 5th credit union. I've been a CEO for 15 years. And this is the 5th credit union that I've been a CEO of. And all of my credit unions have been CDFI, and we've gotten millions of dollars in grant funds to help support the initiatives. And so right now we actually have an application in waiting. We've applied for a $15 million loan, right? And the entire purpose of that $15 million loan is to be spent in these areas to help businesses grow. Right. And so we actually got certified for a very, very large area. I don't even know if you can see that, but it extends outside of California. And the reason is because there was a giant need. Now we are only in 8 cities, right? And we are in Kern, Inyo, and Mono County, right? We're here, Bishop, and then also over in Lone Pine, and then of course, the rest of our other cities. And so we will be spending that majority of the money for these things, specifically for financial education, right? So you've been hearing a lot of people about education. We do loans, true. But at the end of the day, we found that we have a bottleneck issue, right? A loan comes in, you've heard it, 600 loans and then 18 get funded, right? So there's an education issue. So we got to partner right with SBDC and everybody else to make sure that these loans can get approved. So we need to make sure that you guys have the knowledge to help make these businesses successful so we can approve you the loan. And so your business is so successful, you can pay us back, right? It's in our best interest to help you be awesome. And then the access to capital, doing things like first-time home buyer grants, helping up, that down payment sometimes is an issue, not only on that, but also on business loans, right? So really helping with those grants, giving grants, which is different from a loan, to help start some of these smaller businesses, because it is tough to do loans for startups. You've heard plenty of people talk about that, right? But then you have, then you bootstrap it, right? You start your companies, almost credit cards or some kind of home equity line of credit or something you've taken out, right? So instead of you having to do that and put that stress on you, we're actually going to hope to use some of this grant money to do grants for these startup businesses. And workforce training, because I think it's important that everyone continue to train, both your staff, my staff, and everybody. And then we want to also partner more with 501c3 organizations. So you heard a lot of people talking today, if you're from a 501c3 organization, well, we can't help y'all, we don't do nonprofits or something like that, but we can, right? And so it's important that, so part of the money that we ask for grants is so that we can give money to other nonprofit organizations, because in reality, we can't do everything and we know that, but there's so many other people doing amazing things and we want to help those organizations continue to do amazing things because that's good for all of us. So that's really what we want to use some of that money for. So that is this on the CDFI. So you heard a minute ago that we're also that we talked about, you heard about closing branches. We took on some branches. So part of our mission, and that's part of that CDFI, is to serve underserved people and areas, right? So in every single city that we're in, other than Bakersfield, really, there are just a handful of other financial institutions, right? And so part of our mission is also to go in there and make sure that there are access to financial solutions. It means physically being present in those communities. It's great if we do lending in other areas, and we do. We will lend in an area that we don't actually physically have a branch. You've heard that today from others, but I really think that it's important that we are physically present in communities to really achieve our mission, because we are, again, not for profit. So we took over a branch in Tehachapi where Union Bank had left. We took over a branch in Ridgecrest where Mission had left, because it's important that you are physically there, right? So we don't have the same business models as other people. So that allows us to spend a little bit more money on our physical locations and paying for the staff in those locations, just so that we can make sure that people have access. Speaking of access, we think that it's important that, you can because sometimes you need to show up, right? So we actually joined the Co-op Shared Branching Network. It's the largest ATM network nationwide. So the number one largest ATM network, so over 30,000 ATMs, because you need access while you're traveling. But most importantly is sometimes when you are traveling business, you need to get in a branch because there is something you are trying to do that you physically need to get to. So later on this month, we will be having live with 5,000 locations nationwide, right? So that you can physically walk into a branch in the airport in Boston and go and actually, I know this because I've done this. You can go into a location that's a physical location in an airport in Boston, and it's American Airlines Federal Credit Union. We all work together cooperatively and access everything you would do in a normal branch, right? Pay a loan, transfer money, talk to somebody, move stuff around, do anything that you want to do, get checks cut, whatever. So that is why it was important for us, because we know that people like to travel and get out and about, and sometimes we need to be there. Like, it's really important to be there. You want to do everything on the phone, and we try to up that, but at the end of the day, sometimes you just need to talk to a person. So this will be live later on here this month. Some of the other things that we really put emphasis into, right? So as Kelly told you, at the Economic Outlook Conference in February of earlier this year, I really did let everybody know that we were going to put more of an emphasis on our business lending. Why? Because I just told you, we are in some of our locations, the only financial institution in some of our cities, right? Or one of three, right? So if we aren't really upping our game for that community, then we're really not doing our job to really be that community partner that is in our mission to be. So we retooled all of our products and services, created new lines, increased our treasury management services, our merchant card services, our payroll solutions, our ACH. We improved all of that this year so that we could be more of a partner. And the way we did that is we just sat down with businesses. What do you need, right? And so much to the point that if you guys, I have business cards that are over there, but you don't need it. I don't have it on the slide, because if you want to talk to me, you just go to our website and you click on contact us. And at the very top, it says contact the CEO. It's the very first thing that you see. And that email comes directly to me. It doesn't go to anybody else. There is no screening process. You can get a hold of me anytime, because you're my boss and you should be able to get a hold of me at any time, right? And so that's what we did, is we went out into the community and we sat down with people like y'all and said, hey, what do you need us to have for you to be better? What should we be innovating? If we're going to spend money on bringing a product and service online, what is it that you need, right? And from the horse's mouth, all of these products and services came. Other things that we were looking at is increasing our business lending itself. So we said, okay, where are you having trouble? Because that's one of the things that we heard, like, we are having trouble getting financing for these things. And we said, okay, well, let's try to improve that process for you. So again, having that discussion on let's walk me through it. Where's the holdup? Why are these apps being turned down? Let's go through all the apps that we've denied and autopsy them and find out, how we could be better. Other lending that we are expanding. So we have SBA lending, but it isn't as robust as it really needs to be. So that is another thing that we're really focusing on, because if you heard all the different things, right? If we can help get you a loan, then that's what the goal is, right? Other loans is aviation. So we also found a need in aviation. I brought in a really great chief lending officer. I recruited them to come over, and he has an extensive background in aviation loans. And we said, well, hey, there are all these airports, but where are the loans for the planes? And so that was something that we brought over. Again, increasing our number of boat loans, and also just in access. Somebody talked about it earlier, I-10 loans, right? Because we have a lot of people in our communities that don't have a social security number, right? But they do pay taxes and they're in our communities and they're really helping them. So making sure that we have access for them too, because all boats rise with tides. You hear that, right? And it's very true, because people go out and employ more people, and then that's good for all of us. So that is something else that we have now, I-10 loans, and the whole suite of products are available both for I-10 and our Social Security. And we also heavily invested in making sure that we have a fully bilingual staff at a lot of our branches, especially in Bakersfield, and then in our call centers. And our website right now is being converted over to 2 full websites, not a Google Translate, but an actual full website in Spanish, because if you can't communicate with us, that's also a problem, and we need that. So now all of our marketing is both in English and in Spanish, and it's not one person in the branch that can speak Spanish. We have multiple people. So again, to go back to education, because it is so important, we partnered with Google. So my previous credit union, we were the first credit union in the United States to partner with Google. Now we are the second. So it's important. Why? Because again, we want our businesses to be successful. We want you to have all the tools and resources and access. And the SBDC is so great. Like Kelly and everything and everybody that you've heard today, they are just so great in helping you. So I really don't think you can ever have enough education and access to information. That never goes away, right? And so we partnered with Google to make sure that we could help our businesses and all their different steps. They also offer it in English and in Spanish. We don't have the Spanish dates up here, but we do offer it in English and in Spanish. And then we also, on your personal side, because there is sometimes that personal guarantee, so you do have to consider your personal assets as well. We also partnered with Greenberg to make sure that on the personal level, like you're being successful on what you need to do from there as well. So those are some of the things that we have going on. But then the other thing that we found out, again, by talking to people, and I encourage you all, if you're like, hey, this is an awesome event here. All right, it's fantastic. But if there's something that you didn't hear that you're like, but I really need this, what about this? Then I do encourage you to reach out to everybody here, but please also shoot me an email, because I'm always looking for avenues for us to improve, right? And as we have another grant application with the CDFI going in that we will submit again in like April. So if there is something, I would love to put that in a grant, or if it's something that I can build. Right? If there's something that I can build, we will look at building it. If it's something that we need to get larger scale funding for, we'll find partners for it. If I can put it in a grant, I'll put it in a grant. All right. So, so I encourage y'all to reach out. But because of a lot of this too, we found out like there would be a really good idea for us to explain to people all the different things that we have access to everything. You know, so you don't think of a financial institution, maybe it's like we also employ marketing. And we have information security teams, and we have technology teams. And of course, we have finance people, which are completely different than the accounting people, which we also employ. And you actually need all of these things. Like y'all need all these things. We actually have a whole slew of PMP, project management professionals, right? Who actually know how to track and execute on project management. And so when we said, I mean, when we think about everything that we have, isn't that important to other people? Right. And we decided that it was, to the point that we decided to put out a financial podcast. So we're going to be rolling that out soon, where we are actually talking about all of those different things, because finance is different than accounting, and marketing. What is up with that? And then, you know, IT and information security, you know, what are you doing with these things? And so we thought, like, what if we took all the resources that we had and made those just available to all y'all? Right. And then also we thought it would be a really good partnership too, because it's all about making our businesses successful. Honestly, we can't just give y'all loans, right? We have to have you be successful. It's good for you and it's good for us. We've been investing in you, right? So all you heard a bunch today about like getting the loan, but what we don't really talk about all the time is like, and then what happens, right? And so we thought that that's something that we could take on, like that, really thinking about that from the after effect. And then what happens? You got that loan. And now you're like, all right, and then what do we do now, right? Making sure that we're following through with making sure that your sales are going up. How do we help you continue to increase revenue? How do we help you continue to connect with customers? And so even to the point that we have decided that what we will do is we will incentivize all of our members. If you're a member of Alta One, we're going to start giving you total rewards. And part of that is going to be, we are going to increase rewards if you shop at any business that currently will have a loan with us, right? So say you have a flower shop and you are a business of Alta One and we gave you that loan, we're going to encourage our 55,000 people to come and buy from you and incentivize them so that they can earn rewards, because it is so important, because the end then what? right? So just getting the loan isn't, I know we look at the hurdles sometimes, it's like, I gotta get that loan so I can grow, right? And then there's a lot of support on the front end for that, but then it kind of, then what? So anyway, so that's what we're going to be focusing on, is thinking about that perspective. So that's where the idea of this financial podcast came across. That is why I asked you to reach out to me. If there's anything that we can do to help you in that, please, please, please. I just was trying to keep it. I know that we had like, but you gave us extra time. I can do something today. No, I won't. I will not entertain y'all with that, but I am just saying that, yeah. So anyway, that's why this came about. And that is our goal, is to help you pay us back, because when our world, right, it's just one pot of money. We just, everybody who banks with us, we turn around and lend your money out and you pay it back, and then we turn it out and lend it again to the next person. So that is all I had to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Alta One, for your co-sponsoring of this event. It wouldn't have been possible without you. Stephanie kind of knows now what a lot of people in Bishop know. They know that 137-mile drive from Bishop to Ridgecrest. Come on, admit it. I know why you go to Ridgecrest, you people in Bishop. You've told me. So thank you so much, and thank you for everything that's coming forward. And look, and we're really crossing our fingers on that 15 million competitive amount that would be coming for low, really goes across. And you really hear this underserved, and really underserved is really that definition is it's not only brown and black businesses and women and veterans, but it's also rural businesses in rural areas that have been underserved for so long. And so many people kind of miss that point at times. So one time today, we did have to bring that up. So there it was. And since this was our first really kind of major hybrid event coming out of the pandemic, trust me, I have learned a lot today myself. And your slides will be better next time. I trust me. I think the solution for that has to be new hardware though. So that'll be fun. So apparently when the PowerPoint presentations come from a PC to a Mac or a different PowerPoint version, they come in an unformatted or differently a changed formatted state. So I apologize to all of our presenters first and foremost. I spent a good part of time trying to dance them back together what I could, but anyway, it is what it is. So we're also looking for feedback from both our virtual and our in-house audience on how we can improve the Capital Summit for 2022. Okay, that brings us to our concluding speaker, our other co-sponsor, which is Sunstone, and our concluding speaker is going to be Eric Romero, and Eric is the Economic Development Director for Sunstone. Sunstone, for those of you that have not heard what Sunstone has been up to the last few months, Eric's going to be telling you that, but it has really kind of put a breath of fresh air and really some tremendous opportunities here in the Eastern Sierra. And so not to steal Eric's thunder, I'll let him come up and tell you about the projects they have going on or the ideas that they have behind this, the communities they're working in, all that other fun stuff or whatever else he wants to share. So please welcome Eric Romero.
Short, so I'm just going to put this down a little bit. Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. I'd like to just start by giving a big thank you to Kelly and the entire team and everyone that was involved in making today's Capital Summit a success. I'm Eric Romero. I'm the Director of Economic Development for Sunstone Management, and I drove up from Long Beach, California yesterday and have a long drive back today, but we'll fortunately get some good lunch before here in Bishop before I drive back. So we're honored to be a sponsor of this year's Capital Summit. And today I'm actually going to be talking to you about two companies. So we're a part of an ecosystem of 4 companies, and I'll be talking about Sunstone Management and also American Lending Center. Okay. So I'll start with Sunstone Management. So Sunstone Management is a private equity and a venture capital firm located in California. While our office is located in a dense kind of urban environment, we're really interested in supporting underserved founders and underserved regions and especially rural communities, which is why we're here and which is why we've been spending some time in the last few months here in Bishop and across the Eastern Sierra as well. So our corporate philosophy is guided by 3 pillars. The first is investment. So we raise capital to invest in diverse early stage founders, startup founders that operate early stage technology companies. We invest in education, technical assistance, and coaching that helps founders build successful companies. So that's our second pillar, which is entrepreneurship. And we also invest in community. So we partner with local governments, we partner with educational institutions and community organizations to develop programs that create equitable economic growth opportunities. All right, so our investment philosophy. So when it comes to investing in startup companies, we rely on the following investment philosophy and investment thesis. So the first is founder focused. So we focus on and partner with founders that own and operate early stage technology companies and that are committed to solving challenging problems. The second is market modern. So we invest in products, services and solutions that are highly scalable and can ultimately modernize the way that we do business across different sectors. And the third is sustainable. So we invest in companies that advance products, services, and solutions that are socially, environmentally, and financially sustainable. So again, we are very interested in supporting underserved regions and underserved founders through partnerships with existing accelerators, also in developing new tech accelerators and supporting programs with universities and SBDCs. Sunstone Management is currently working with 2 accelerators, one in Long Beach, California, where I'm from, and one in New York. And we're in conversations with 3 cities, both in rural and non-rural areas, to develop new accelerator programs. And Sunstone Management has raised the fund for every single accelerator program that we're supporting to invest in the early stage technology companies that are ultimately going through the programs. And we've already recruited a network of advisors, mentors, angel investors, and venture capitalists that are partnering with Sunstone Management and supporting our technology accelerators and the early stage firms that we're investing in. So unlike other venture capitalist firms, we don't necessarily have a specific kind of industry vertical or sector that we focus on. We actually support a variety of startup companies. And so these are just some examples, but certainly a non-exhaustive list of the types of industries and business areas that we ultimately invest in. And currently we have 51 companies in our portfolio. So these are the logos of those companies. I know it's hard to see all of them, but we have 51. And our goal is to grow our portfolio to 350 companies in the next 5 years. And we really plan to develop that pipeline of startups that we can support through these partnerships with both new accelerators, also existing accelerators, and with universities and different SBDC programs in the state of California and nationally as well. And that said, while we do prioritize startups that are getting technical assistance through accelerators, we are also open to working with other startups that are looking to raise some funding and want to speak with our investment team. So we're happy to talk with folks that aren't already a part of an existing partnership that we support. So what do we look for when we're investing in a startup company? So we're looking for really accelerator ready or post accelerator startups. So these are folks that already have a minimum viable product. They already have a customer base, even if it's a small customer base, and they have some revenue. So it's not for businesses that are in the idea stage. Like a tech incubator would probably be more appropriate for them and to get that support before we would ultimately, engage with them and potentially invest in them. We're also interested in founders that have really good experience, that have a great vision, and can build a great team that can ultimately allow them to scale their company over time. While we don't have a specific minimum market size for the industry or kind of the area that the startup is working in, it needs to be big enough so that company can really grow and scale in that industry and get a good market share over time. And then we're really interested in founders that want a partnership. So we don't want to just invest and just have a financial transaction. We want to support the founders through the journey of the growth of their companies. So for example, we've invested in several companies, as I shared earlier, and we meet with them after we've already invested and try to better understand what their needs are. So they need additional support with marketing. They didn't need additional support with kind of HR services. And through those conversations, we're developing what we call value added services that we can make available to them for free as a part of being in the Sunstone Management venture capital portfolio. So we'd like to really partner with over the long term with the companies that we invest in. I'll just transition and have a few slides here to talk about American Lending Center, which is the first company that was established by this ecosystem of companies and our founder John Shen. So Lending Center, American Lending Center, I'll just say ALC for short, is a non-bank lender that was established in 2009. Between 2009 and 2020, we've done a lot of larger projects, about 80 projects across 19 different states, and since pre-pandemic, we helped to create 12,000 new jobs through these different projects. And we've also helped to ultimately retain over 130,000 jobs as well. And like many of the lenders that are in this room today, we were very involved in PPP, or the Paycheck Protection Program. So American Lending Center ended up completing roughly 30,000 PPP loans. So American Lending Center has a few different investment priorities. The first is small business. It could be a range of different small businesses and a variety of needs, whether it's working capital or tenant improvements or acquiring a business. We're also really interested in real estate. That can be residential, that can be mixed use, it can be commercial development, and it can be a redevelopment of an existing property, or it can also be from the ground up development as well. And then we're also interested in investing in public infrastructure and facilities. So think improving broadband infrastructure or sidewalks, or other improvements to the public right of way, and city facilities as well. We have alignment with both the state of California and the federal government. So earlier today, we had a great session talking about the state small business credit initiative, and the state of California, as mentioned earlier, is set to receive a little over $1 billion. And American Lending Center is a registered lender with the state of California, and will be participating in the SSBCI 2.0 program. And a large portion of that funding will ultimately go out in the form of loans that lenders ultimately end up making through support from the state of California. Some of that will go into technical assistance, and then there's also $200 million that the state of California has ultimately made available through equity investments or venture capital investments as well. And one of the benefits, as was mentioned earlier, so because there is a state loan guarantee program, it enables ALC to make, for lack of a better term, quote unquote, riskier loans, meaning a business, we can invest and make a loan to businesses that have limited operating history. We can make loans to people that have credit challenges or limited credit history. And we can invest in businesses that have limited cash flow as well through the support of the state of California. And ALC is actually in the process of developing new loan products with the approval of this program. So what we'd really like to do is actually have some follow-up meetings and interview folks, maybe some focus groups, to better understand the end user's perspective and design programs that meet your needs. So understanding, what the priorities are. Do you need startup capital? Do you need capital to expand? Do you need it for furniture, fixtures, and equipment? Do you need it for tenant improvements? What kinds of terms are you interested in? So instead of us designing a program and saying, hey, this is what we offer, we'd actually like to do a user-centered design process, where we're designing the programs around the needs of the small businesses that will ultimately benefit from these resources. And then the last program I'll talk about is that ALC is also registered to be a regional center and participate in an economic development and job creation program by the federal government called EB5. So that enables American Lending Center to facilitate foreign direct investment. And under this program, there's a priority from the federal government to invest in rural areas and also to invest in infrastructure as well. And these are bigger projects though. So the minimum amount that a business or an investor needs to invest is $800,000 in order to get some of the benefits of the program. And for that $800,000, a minimum of 10 jobs need to be created, either directly by, for example, a business employing staff and hiring them over a 3-year period, or they can be created through construction and the indirect kind of economic impacts and benefits that is created through that construction project. So we have a lot of interest in partnering here in Bishop and other rural communities as well to help really bring some of the great vision to life. So there's a really great downtown specific plan. There's a lot of work that's been invested in developing a new business resource center, and a lot of great organizations and people that are frankly committed over the long term to help make this a more vibrant, resilient, and sustainable community. And so we would like to come in and just really add value wherever we can and be a supportive partner in that process. So please follow us on social media. Please also get on our website, and we'd love to talk to you. So, I'll stick around for about 30 minutes after the event today, and feel free to send me an email, and we'd love to chat, learn more about you, and learn how we might be able to partner to help make your vision a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. So that brings us to the conclusion of our program today. I really first want to thank the presenters, because it's really the presenters who bring all these exciting programs and bring the opportunities to our small business that make this event. So thank you, every one of you. Particularly those that drove a considerable distance to be here. So thank you again. Also, our sponsors, Sunstone and Alta One, big thanks, and our community partners. And I want to just leave you with one thing. There are tons of programs out there. There's tons of capital. You can find capital if you're creative. Even for those that don't think, or they're told that they can't have it, it's out there. And it's out there in a lot of different ways, shapes, and form. And it's just getting that project started. It's getting that ball rolling, and it's getting on and getting those results into where then you become much more attractive for lenders, for other programs. But there is just tons of capital out there. Now go out and get it. Thank you very much.